Chapter 1493. The Ancient Giant Barbarian Tribe. Su Fong raised his eyebrows, and his expression turned serious. This person had a violent and majestic aura. Once it exploded, it seemed to be able to shake the heavens. And Su Fong had seen this person's aura before. When he first came to the Clear Skies Myriad Scroll door after his marriage with Fairy Xuanxin, Su Fong had fought with a boy under the Ziwei Crown Prince. This boy had the bloodline of the ancient giant barbarian tribe. After activating his bloodline, he had extremely powerful divine power. However, the aura of this cloaked cultivator was more than 10,000 times more terrifying than that boy's. Outside the palace, many cultivators who were watching the show pointed at Su Fong with disdain. "What's going on?" Su Fong looked at Yu Miaoyin and asked. Yu Miaomei cried and said, "Celestial treasure, they're bullying us. They want to kick us out. I've lived in this palace for more than 100 years, but you've forcibly occupied it. In the Heaven Dao immortal world, I've always been the one to take other people's things. Who do you think you are? The Yu family is just a has-been family. How dare you occupy my residence?" The cloaked cultivator pointed at the Yu family with an arrogant expression. This palace was prepared by Jun Moyen for Su Fong and the others. Clearly, he used his status as a special disciple to kick out the previous occupant, which was this cloaked cultivator. The cloaked cultivator didn't dare to offend Jun Moyen, so he vented his anger on the Yu family and even brought experts to help. The cloaked cultivator pointed at Su Fong and shouted coldly, "You're the celestial treasure who defeated the tree demon? I don't care if you're a celestial treasure, an earth treasure, or a celestial treasure. Take the Yu family and get out of here immediately." Su Fong said coldly, "Sorry, I won't leave, and I won't leave this palace. As for you, leave your golden core and get out for me to see. Do you know who I am? I don't care who you are. You'll pay 10 times the price for hurting my people." As soon as his domineering voice fell, Su Fong stepped out and went straight for the cloaked cultivator. Arrogant. The cloaked cultivator behind the brocade-robed cultivator suddenly flashed out from the side and threw a punch at Su Fong. This punch did not release any special ability, but it caused ripples to appear in the space. It had an unstoppable and terrifying aura. Boom equals N_1. The close collision caused the void to ripple like the surface of water. The violent sound waves caused the nearby embroidered-robed cultivator to bleed from his ears and nose. The cultivators of the Yu clan were forced to retreat. Some of the cultivators behind them could no longer maintain their flight and almost fell to the ground. Su Fong was forced to take 3 steps back, but the cloaked cultivator remained motionless. What a powerful physical body. As expected of someone with the bloodline of the ancient giant barbarian tribe, Su Fong was shocked. Although Su Fong did not use any special ability or his full strength, his physical body had reached perfection. How powerful was his divine strength? The cloaked cultivator was able to force Su Fong back. It was obvious how powerful his physical body was. If he used the strength of the ancient giant barbarian tribe, he could kill a 9th Dao Saint Immortal with a single punch. The cloaked cultivator's eyes lit up. He looked at Su Fong again and said stiffly, "An ancient physical body cultivator? You're strong, but not as strong as me. You have the right to know my name. I'm Tuayu." Tuayu? The Yu clan elder was shocked. His face was filled with awe and respect. He then sent a message to Su Fong with his nascent spirit. "Senior heavenly treasure, the Sky Dao Immortal Realms King City has ranked the peerless geniuses participating in the Heaven Ascension Conference. This person is ranked 3rd among all the geniuses. He's a peerless expert." Genius ranking? What's my rank? The Yu clan elder hesitated and replied with his nascent spirit. "Senior heavenly treasure is ranked outside the top 100. That's not very high." Su Fong smiled faintly. The cloaked cultivator sneered. "Heavenly treasure, for Jun Moyen's sake, I won't make things difficult for you. Get out of here immediately." "Clown." Su Fong stepped forward. His right hand turned into a dragon claw. Not only is his physical body a perfection, but he also cultivates the dragon race's cultivation method. No wonder his physical body is so strong. Tuayu's eyes lit up with a wild light. The muscles on his right arm wriggled. There was a burst of explosive sound like beans being fried. A violent force exploded. Just as Tuayu's fist was about to collide with Su Fang's, Su Fang suddenly jumped to the side. He split Tuayu's attack and appeared in front of the cloaked cultivator unexpectedly. "What are you doing?" The cloaked cultivator's arrogance and complacency instantly turned into fear. Although his strength was not bad, under Su Fang's terrifying power after activating his dragon chi, he couldn't even circulate his true chi. Slap, slap, slap. The cloaked cultivator's face was slapped more than a dozen times in an instant. All of his teeth fell out. His handsome face turned into a pig's head in an instant. "This is Huan Miaomei's and Yu Miaoyin's," Su Fang's cold voice rang out. The fingertips of his right hand, which had turned into a dragon claw, scratched the face of the brocade-robed cultivator, leaving behind 5 wounds that were so deep that the bones could be seen. His skin was torn open and his flesh was bleeding profusely. "How dare you humiliate me like this? Kill him. Tuayu, kill him now." The cloaked cultivator roared in anger and pain. "Despicable." Tuayu roared angrily and strode towards Su Fang's back. Unexpectedly, Su Fang reached out and grabbed the cloaked cultivator. His right hand, which had turned into a dragon claw, slapped the cloaked cultivator's abdomen. "This is justice for the Yu clan's cultivators who were crippled by you." Su Fang's cold and domineering voice sounded. Bang! A surge of dragon chi entered the cloaked cultivator's dantian, shattering his golden core. His body was unharmed and flew toward Tuayu. Tuayu had no choice but to retract his strength and grab the cloaked cultivator. "My golden core!" With a miserable scream, the cloaked cultivator fainted. "You are really overbearing and ruthless. This person's family once saved my life. You crippled his Tao in front of me. This is a provocation to me. Anyone who provokes me will only have one ending death." Tuayu's eyes emitted a cold divine light. His body trembled and a series of explosions sounded. His bones and muscles grew crazily. In the end, he turned into a 300 zhang tall giant. At this moment, Tuayu's body was emitting a violent and domineering ancient aura. He was like a giant from ancient times. He gave people the feeling that he could collapse the sky with one punch and break a star with one step. Su Fang's eyes were solemn. Although Tuayu, who had activated the ancient giant barbarian tribe's bloodline, was not comparable to devil lords like Manshur and Guhi, he was still extremely powerful. Only by activating the dragon, subduing true body to the extreme, could one fight against him. The Heavenly Ascension Assembly had not yet begun. To fight against such an expert was not what Su Fang wanted. However, he had to do it. Who dares to cause trouble in World Palace? Whoosh, more than 10 World Palace cultivators flew over. Jun Moyen was among them. "Tuayu, stop. Do you want to fight against World Palace?" Jun Moyen shouted coldly. The World Palace cultivators immediately surrounded Tuayu. Tuayu's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He actually wanted to attack the World Palace cultivators. After activating the giant barbarian tribe's bloodline, not only did it give him great strength, it also made him savage and violent. At this moment, a majestic voice suddenly sounded. "Your talent is not bad, but you're an unreasonable barbarian. World Palace is not a place for you to be arrogant." The next moment, an astonishing shackling force shrouded Tuayu's body. Following that, a huge palm print that was hundreds of feet in size suddenly pressed down on Tuayu's head with a terrifying will of the heavenly Tao. Boom! The incomparably valiant Tuayu was like an ant, forcibly slapped by the palm print until he knelt on the ground equals and _1. Tuayu roared like a wild beast. Under the shackling force, he could not struggle at all. "If you dare to resist again, I'll kill you." The majestic voice sounded again. Immortal, venerable expert. Only then did Tuayu stop struggling. His body returned to normal. That astonishing shackling force disappeared without a trace. However, Su Fang could feel that there was a sensing force lingering on his body. Obviously, it was the immortal venerable expert who attacked him just now. He was secretly sizing him up. Your fleshly body has reached the consummate stage, and you have fused with the dragon-subduing wood. You have cultivated a true body that is similar to a divine dragon. You also have the innate ability to control magic treasures. Young man, you are very extraordinary. I hope you can shine in this heavenly ascension conference. Su Fang's primordial spirit sensed a primordial spirit voice, and then the primordial spirit voice disappeared without a trace. Su Fang thought, this immortal venerable expert should be one of the higher-ups of World Palace. His strength is not as strong as a mortal elder frozen dream, but he's a level higher than an immortal venerable like Master Truth. If my World Dao Palace is restored, I'll be able to fight him. Tuayu stood up shakily from the ground. His ferocious nature did not change. He looked at Su Fang and said, Tian Bao, I'll definitely kill you in the Heaven Ascension Assembly. Su Fang said indifferently, I'm also looking forward to fighting you in the Heaven Ascension Assembly. However, you don't have the qualifications to kill me. A scoundrel who only dares to hide behind Jun Moyan dares to be so arrogant? Tuayu sneered disdainfully. Then, he swept up the cultivator in embroidered robes and left with large strides. Brother Tian Bao, it's my fault for not making proper arrangements and bringing you such a big trouble. Tuayu's strength is extraordinary. If you encounter him in the Heaven Ascension Assembly, you must be careful, Jun Moyan warned. Tuayu is ranked 3rd, while I'm ranked outside the top 100. How can I be his opponent? Su Fang smiled faintly. Jun Moyan said with a smile, what do those people outside know? Naturally, the ranking doesn't count. The higher-ups of World Palace already know about the black-robed old immortal. They think highly of Brother Tianbao's strength. After Jun Moyan and the others left, Su Fang looked at the people of Yu Clan and said, someone came to provoke us. Why didn't you call me? The old man of Yu Clan said respectfully, we don't dare to disturb senior's cultivation. Yu Miaomei said innocently, that's not true. The clan leader and sister were afraid that you couldn't defeat that barbarian. That's why they didn't call you. Yu Clan not bad. Su Fang nodded. He shot out a Xianguang and swept a storage ring over to the old man of Yu Clan. There were 10,000 supreme-grade immortal sky pills in the ring. Then, he reached out his hand and touched Yu Miaoyin's cheek. A green immortal radiance burst out from his palm. In an instant, the wounds on Yu Miaoyin's face healed rapidly without leaving a trace. She regained her beautiful appearance. Yu Miaoyin was surprised and happy at the same time. Then, her face turned red. Her heart was beating rapidly and her face was burning. Yu Miaomei said unhappily, Tian Bao, why are you touching my sister? You're taking advantage of her again. =_ our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1494. Yu Miaoyin's face turned so red that blood was about to drip out. Su Fang smiled and rubbed Yu Miaomei's face. He used the aura of the dragon-taming wood to remove the palm print on her face. This happened because of me. I will seek justice for you. It's not enough to just cripple that brocade-robed cultivator. That Tuayu will also have to pay the price. Su Fang said domineeringly. Su Fang gave Yu Miaoyin another rune talisman and said with his primordial spirit, this contains some of my understanding of the ethereal primordial realm. Take it and study it carefully. It might be of some help. Yu Miaoyin held the rune talisman tightly. She was overjoyed. Just call me Tian Bao from now on. Don't call me senior. My real age is even younger than Miss Yu. Su Fang said slowly. Then, he looked back at the cultivators who were watching from afar. He smiled coldly and returned to the palace. Looking at Su Fang's back, the Yu clan members were filled with awe, gratitude, and excitement. After this incident, the Yu family finally received the approval of the Heavenly Treasure Senior. Moreover, they had underestimated Tianbao's strength. Judging from his appearance, he was probably even stronger than Tuayu. With such a powerhouse, the Yu clan would not have to worry about not having a chance to regain their former glory. The cultivators in the air, not far away, gradually dispersed. 3 of them looked at the palace where Su Fang lived and discussed. What do you two think of Tian Bao and Taoyu? One of the golden-robed young cultivators asked the other two. This person had a domineering aura. He was actually a peerless genius who cultivated the way of the emperor, relying on Jun Moyin's protection. Such a person is not worth mentioning. Tuayu of the ancient giant barbarian tribe is a little troublesome, as expected of the top 3 peerless geniuses. I'm not as good as him. A white-robed cultivator said disdainfully. This person had sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes. Occasionally, a sharp sword ray would flash in his eyes, as if it could pierce through the void. He was obviously an extremely powerful sword cultivator. The golden-robed cultivator continued. This person was able to defeat the black-robed old immortal who transformed into a tree demon and control over 1,000 flying swords at the same time. He will definitely be a formidable opponent for us in the Heaven Ascension Assembly. The white-clothed cultivator laughed disdainfully. What's the point of controlling a pile of scrap metal, no matter how many there are? As far as I know, forcing the black-clothed old immortal to reveal his true form was the work of a demon hunter. What does it have to do with this person? If I encounter him during the Heaven Ascension Summit, I only need a single sword strike to kill him. The other black-clad young cultivator had a yellow face and no eyebrows. He had a very comical appearance. However, his aura was void, and he gave off a much more terrifying feeling compared to the other two. The bald cultivator in black looked at the palace where Su Fong lived with a puzzled look in his deep eyes. Just now, he had used his primordial spirit to sense Su Fong. In an instant, Su Fong's aura was completely gone, as if he had disappeared from where he was. This person is unfathomable. The bald cultivator muttered to himself. His eyes were filled with fear. Let's go. It's a waste of time to waste on such a useless person. We should focus on those monsters in the World Palace. The white-clothed cultivator waved his hand and left. More than 2 months later, Su Fong walked out of the palace, followed by Li Haojia, the Lord of 5 Poisons, the monk, the Ghost Owl's 5 freaks, Dai Yong, Mao Chong, and other experts. Long before this, Su Fong had asked them to sign up for the Heaven Ascension Summit. Even if they could not get a good ranking, it was still a rare opportunity for them to gain experience. The people of the Yu clan who had been waiting outside the palace were shocked to see so many experts around Su Fong all of a sudden. Let's go. Su Fong led everyone, including Yu Miaoyin, to the high platform in the depths of the World Palace. The monk was very excited. After fusing with Truth Guru's Buddhist Chi and obtaining the profound Buddhist cultivation method and divine ability, his strength had skyrocketed. At this moment, his whole body was burning with confidence. This time, he was 100% confident that he could reach the top 10. Li Haojia, the Lord of 5 Poisons, and the other experts were also holding back a surge of energy. After passing through the palaces, they arrived below the high platform. There was a huge square covered by an immortal formation. It turned out that when they signed up for the Heaven Ascension Summit, the token that the World Palace put out moved. Su Fong and the others spread out. Under the guidance of the token, they came to the area that was already divided. Su Fong sat down on the square and used his perfection stage ability to scan. The immortal world of the central immortal domain is indeed full of talents. He sensed that there were more than 100,000 young cultivators. Their cultivation was above the world immortal realm, and they had cultivated for less than 1,000,000 years. This was just the Heaven Dao immortal world, and there were so many geniuses. If it was a great world, or the entire central immortal domain, how shocking would it be? Among the 100,000 cultivators, Su Fong also saw many true geniuses. Tuayu, who had a conflict with him and had the bloodline of the ancient giant barbarian tribe, was also among them. However, among these cultivators, there were only a few whose cultivation had reached the saint immortal realm. After all, those who could become immortal emperors in 1,000,000 years were all true geniuses. Su Fong did not see Jun Moyin and the other disciples of the World Palace. Naturally, the geniuses of the World Palace did not need to participate in today's elimination round. On the high platform, surrounded by floating immortal clouds, thousands of World Palace's upper echelons, as well as World Palace's special disciples, looked down at the square below. With the immortal clouds blocking their vision, ordinary cultivators would have a hard time discovering their existence. However, Sufang's perfect eye power could see through the immortal clouds and see them clearly. After waiting for more than 2 hours, whoosh, a world palace higher up appeared on the square. The divine light in his eyes swept across the square below. The 100,000 cultivators on the square were instantly silent. They were nervous and excited. Due to the large number of participants, the rules of this Heaven Ascension assembly have been changed. It's stricter than before. Listen carefully. This round will be an elimination round. The method is very simple. Leave the square and climb the Heaven Ascension platform. Many cultivators heard this and could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. This method of testing was a bit too simple. Some people knew how difficult the Heaven Ascension platform test was, but their expressions changed drastically. Don't think that the Heaven Ascension platform test is easy. The Heaven Ascension platform was created by a peerless, immortal, venerable expert of the World Palace. It took tens of millions of years to create it. There are a total of 9,000 steps. Each step is extremely difficult. The Heaven Ascension platform is also a method of testing the disciples of the World Palace. Only those who can climb 1,000 steps are qualified to become an outer disciple of the World Palace. 2,000 steps are enough to become an ordinary disciple. 3,000 steps are enough to become a core disciple of the World Palace. In this Heaven Ascension assembly, only those who can climb 1,000 steps are qualified to participate in the following competitions. Even if you can't get a ranking in the following competitions, you can still join the World Palace and become an outer disciple. Among the 100,000 participants, it's already good if 1 out of 100 passes. 1 out of 100? In other words, after the first round of elimination, only 1,000 or so people would remain. Such a cruel elimination rate made most of the participating cultivators feel like a bucket of ice water had been poured over their heads. Just as the World Palace upper echelon was about to announce the start of the test, a prideful voice suddenly sounded from the crowd. "May I ask this, Lord, if I climb 1,000 steps, can I continue to climb and even reach the peak of the Heaven Ascension platform?" The square immediately quieted down. It seemed that not only this person, but many people had the same idea equals and underscore 1. If you climb 1,000 steps, you can naturally continue to climb and even reach 3,000 steps. Although it won't be counted in the later results, you will have a chance to leave your name on the Heaven Ascension stele. At the same time, you will receive great benefits. As for what benefits, you will naturally know when the time comes. Young man, I advise you not to try to climb beyond 6,000 steps. That will be disadvantageous to you in the later competitions. The young cultivator below asked in confusion why. Every step on the Heaven Ascension platform will be met with a huge natural barrier. These barriers contain the natural energy of heaven and earth, as well as the power of laws. Thus, the Heaven Ascension platform is a test of one's overall strength, especially one's talent. If you don't have enough strength and talent, you will only be asking for trouble. My lifespan is limited to 100 years. If I can reach the 6,000 step, I have a chance of becoming an immortal venerable. Those who can reach the peak of the 9,000 steps will have the heaven-defying talent to become the pinnacle expert of the great world. Whoosh! In the square, a wave of exclamations erupted like a tide. Ever since the Heaven Ascension platform was created, there were hundreds of people who were able to reach the 6,000 or even 8,000 steps. All of them became immortal venerables. As for those who have reached the peak of 9,000 steps, there has never been such a person before. I believe that there will never be such a person in the future. Swish! Swish! Numerous hail and hearty gazes descended onto the peak of the high platform that was enshrouded in immortal mist. Which cultivator didn't want to become the pinnacle powerhouse of a great world? Even if there was no hope of reaching the peak, if they didn't even have the thought of reaching the peak, how could they cultivate? Sufang raised his eyebrows. His eyes flickered with light, but in the next moment, there was a trace of hesitation. At this moment, Luo's voice came from the blood jade in his body. Su Fong, the Heaven Ascension platform, is a peerless Tao artifact. It should be a replica of the divine artifact, the Destiny platform. You can use this Heaven Ascension platform to test your talent and future achievements. See if you can reach the peak. Being so ostentatious will probably attract trouble. Moreover, I didn't change my appearance this time. Once news of this spread to the Destiny Hao Tsang sect, and Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi know about it, they will definitely think of ways to take revenge on me. When a cultivator cultivates, it's time to be ostentatious. Your goal is to enter the Destiny Hao Tsang sect. If you don't show off now, when will you? Moreover, in the process of climbing the Heaven Ascension platform, there will be unexpected benefits for you. Just give it your all. As for Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi, you don't have to be too wary. When you soar into the sky and display your peerless talent, the Destiny Hao Tsang sect will fight to rope you in and let you join the sect. What's the small grudge between you and Heavenly Lord Xian Shu and Feng Wuzi? That's right, I'm overthinking. Then this time, I might as well be ostentatious and reach the peak of the Heaven Ascension platform. Su Fong's eyes burned with the flames of confidence. A towering and domineering aura naturally flowed out. The elimination round of the Heaven Ascension assembly begins. As the majestic voice of the World Palace's upper echelon fell, the curtains of the Heaven Ascension assembly that everyone was watching began. Equals under our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1495. All participating cultivators. All you need to do is activate the medallion, and it will release its power to send you to the bottom of the Heaven Ascension platform. Then the test will begin. Remember, you have 3 months. You can climb with ease. There is no need to be impatient. Begin. I wish you all good results, and be able to ascend the Heaven Ascension stele. Although every cultivator knew how to enter the Heaven Ascension platform, the World Palace higher-ups who were hosting the competition reminded them again. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Many cultivators impatiently activated the medallion with their true qi. The medallion released a Xian Guang, forming a halo that enveloped the participating cultivators. Then, a teleportation force moved them to the bottom of the Heaven Ascension platform. There were more than 100,000 cultivators. However, the Heaven Ascension platform towered into the clouds and took up more than 100 miles of space. Furthermore, the Heaven Ascension platform was a peerless Tao artifact. It had a vast space. With more than 100,000 people climbing the platform at the same time, it did not feel crowded. Su Fong also activated the medallion and was sent to the bottom of the Heaven Ascension platform by the medallion's power. The Heaven Ascension platform was straight and steep, but there were no stairs to go up. Where do I start climbing? Just as Su Fong was puzzled, a Xian Guang formation flashed under his feet and formed a floating platform. Moreover, there was a shackling force that enveloped the floating platform. Su Fong activated his great perfection power to sense it. The shackling force was formed by nature's power. There were 2 ways to break through the shackling force. One was to directly shatter the shackling force with one strength. The other was much more ingenious. The tester would have to comprehend the natural energy and laws within the shackling force. This method would definitely save a lot of effort, but it would take a lot more time. Su Fong activated his great perfection power and stepped out of the floating platform, shattering the shackling force around him with his physical body. Then, he took a step forward, and a floating platform was formed where his foot landed. Looking at the bottom of the Heaven Ascension platform, more than 100,000 cultivators were climbing the Heaven Ascension platform in the same way. Su Fong couldn't help but exclaim, "What a wondrous Heaven Ascension platform!" The expert who refined this treasure was not only a peerless figure with unparalleled strength, but his level of refining was probably even greater than the Undead Lord. Compared to the Heavenly Treasure Emperor, only his level of refining was inferior equals and _1. Master, you're wrong. It's just as the primordial spirit in your body said. The Heaven's Ascension platform is actually a replica of the Heavens Will platform. The Heavens Will platform was created by my old master, the emperor of celestial treasures. Climbing the heaven ascension platform is a test. It's also a process of understanding the world and cultivating. I can't let go of such a good opportunity. Su Fong focused on the heaven ascension platform. With each step, he would carefully comprehend the natural divine power and laws. He benefited from it. Right now, Su Fong's own world had already taken shape. Furthermore, what he cultivated was the most mysterious heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao was the universe. It represented the creation of stars and life. It included everything in the universe. In addition, Su Fong continued to comprehend Emperor Tianbao's great Tao of refining, as well as the life-shrinking technique, the underworld reincarnation technique, and the ethereal truth. To Su Fong, the natural divine power and laws on the heaven ascension platform were like standing at the top of a mountain. Everything was under his control. The natural divine power and laws below the 3,000 step of the heaven ascension platform were the most basic things. However, any natural divine power and laws were derived and transformed from these basic things. Su Fong didn't lack high-level cultivation techniques and divine powers. Even his understanding of the heavenly Tao surpassed ordinary celestial venerables. What he lacked was the foundation. His speed of improvement was too fast. What he lacked was time to settle down. The understanding on the heaven ascension platform could make up for this. In the process of climbing the heavenly platform, Su Fong's understanding of nature, combined with Emperor Tianbao's understanding of the great way of refining, became deeper and deeper. It brought great benefits to the cultivation of his own world. Therefore, when the others were trying to break through the shackles and scrambling to climb the heaven ascension platform, Su Fong was cultivating. Therefore, every step he took was very slow, and he soon fell to the back of the group. At the top of the heaven ascension platform, in the square in front of the magnificent palace, the upper echelons of World Palace and the special disciples looked down. It was like watching a group of ants climbing a mountain. A feeling of superiority arose spontaneously. As long as the contestants had a slightly outstanding performance, the upper echelons of World Palace would specially size them up and remember them. That Tuayu, who has the bloodline of the ancient giant barbarian tribe, is indeed amazing. He's already on the 1,000th step. There are a few other geniuses who are also qualified to fight with us in this Heaven Ascension assembly. That demon hunter is also very extraordinary. The special disciples of World Palace who were standing on the other side looked down and pointed at the contestants who were rushing in front. Hey, look, there's a Buddhist cultivator. His speed is so fast. A special disciple exclaimed and attracted the attention of the upper echelons of World Palace and the special disciples. It was the monk Shangda. His whole body was shining with golden Buddhist light and exuding a holy aura. He was like an eminent monk who had achieved the Tao. Every step he took was steady and fast. He was firmly in the first echelon. Buddhist cultivators were very rare to begin with. At this moment, the monk Shangda's cultivation had reached the level of a saint immortal. Naturally, he attracted a lot of attention. One of the upper echelons nodded and said, "This Buddhist cultivator is a good seedling. Although World Palace is not a Buddhist sect, we still have some ancient Buddhist cultivation techniques, divine powers, and Buddhist artifacts. If this person is willing to join World Palace, we can nurture him carefully. He will definitely become an expert in the future." Not only Shangda, but the Lord of Five Poisons also attracted the attention of the upper echelons. Although the Lord of Five Poisons was still at the peak of the 9th Tao realm, his Five Poisons' true body was already maturing. After activating it, he actually corroded the shackles of nature on the Heaven Ascension platform and advanced calmly. He was much faster than some of the Saint Immortal Realm geniuses. Whoosh, Tuayu was the first to reach the 1,000th step. However, he did not stop and rushed up. 3 figures followed closely behind Tuayu. A white-robed sword cultivator, a golden-robed cultivator who cultivated the Tao of Emperor, and a black-robed cultivator with bald eyebrows. In stark contrast to these 4, there were thousands of weaker world immortals who were lagging far behind. They had only reached the 100th step, and their speed was getting slower and slower. June Moyen, of the two people you try to ask the upper echelons for, that demon hunter's performance is indeed extraordinary. Whereas the physical body cultivator called Tian Bao, a special disciple with a crimson hair, suddenly asked. June Moyen raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, "The competition has just begun. Tian Bao is lagging behind for now. It won't be long before he catches up." The redhead sneered and said, "I've seen his portrait. If I'm not wrong, he's only reached the 90th step and is mingling with thousands of world immortals. With such strength, you dare to ask the upper echelons?" The competition between the special disciples of World Palace was fierce. Now that June Moyen was being mocked by the redhead, the other special disciples laughed with disdain and then mocked him. "June Moyen, come here." June Moyen was called over by a white immortal from the upper echelons of World Palace and was reprimanded. After returning, June Moyen was once again mocked by those special disciples who did not get along with him. About 10 days later, the further one went on the Heaven Ascension platform, the more difficult it was. Every step was as difficult as reaching the heavens. Most of the contestants were stuck below the 1,000th step. No matter how hard they tried, they could not advance any further equals in _R. In the end, they could only give up and be sent back to the square below. There were less than 1,000 people who could cross the 1,000th step and pass the first round of elimination. There were even fewer who could reach the 2,000th step. As for those above the 3,000th step, there were only Tuoyu and a dozen other geniuses. Li Haojia, the Lord of Five Poisons, and the monk Shangde were among them. After reaching the 3,000th step, a peaceful aura descended and enveloped the contestants. This power was like the peaceful power of the heavenly Tao after passing the heavenly tribulation, helping the cultivators to cleanse their marrow. Under the effect of the peaceful aura, the physical body, primordial spirit, and golden core of the contestants were cleansed. In just a short period of time, the effect was comparable to that of 100,000 years of cultivation. This was the wonderful thing about the Heaven Ascension platform. It was also the benefit that the upper echelon of World Palace had mentioned. The five monsters of Ghost Dao, Dai Yong, Mao Chong, and other experts under Su Fong were also performing very well. At this time, they had already reached the 2,000th step and could easily cross the 3,000th step. Yu Miaoyin, who had just reached the 4th Dao realm of the world immortal realm, also displayed the strength and talent of her cultivation realm. She was actually neck and neck with the five monsters of Ghost Dao. Her talent was not ordinary. In addition, she cultivated the ethereal true enlightenment. Su Fong had also given his understanding of the ethereal primordial realm to her cultivation. In a short period of time, she had a higher level of understanding of the Tao of illusion and reality. This made her like a fish in water on the Heaven Ascension platform. Her outstanding performance attracted the attention of some of the upper echelons. At this time, Su Fong had finally reached the 1,000th step. However, other than June Moyen, no one else noticed him. Another month passed by. Tuoyu, the white-robed sword cultivator, the golden-robed cultivator, and the bald-browed cultivator had all reached the 6,000th step. The 4,000th step meant that one had the qualifications to become a special disciple of World Palace. The 6,000th step meant that one had the potential to become a peerless celestial supremacy. Celestial supremacies were the supreme beings of the great world. There were very few of them. With the power of World Palace, the number of celestial supremacies could be counted on one hand. Although the test of the Heaven Ascension platform was only the possibility of becoming a celestial supremacy, to truly become a peerless celestial supremacy, one still needed countless years of cultivation and accumulation. At the same time, one also needed supreme luck and opportunity. However, even if it was just a trace of possibility, it was still extremely shocking. At this time, four peerless geniuses who had the potential to become celestial supremacies had suddenly appeared. Instantly, there was a huge uproar on and off the Heaven Ascension platform. The upper echelons of World Palace were all alarmed. They all stood up, and rays of divine light landed on the four people. When the four of them reached the 6,000th step, a melodious and loud bell rang, resounding in all directions. With the potential to become a celestial supremacy, the Heaven Ascension platform would automatically ring the bell to congratulate them. In an instant, the four of them displayed their peerless brilliance, causing the 5 divine suns in the sky to pale in comparison. Equals _ our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1496. Tianbao, you're still under 1,000 steps. You disappoint me. Trash like you only deserves to be stepped on by me. Why do you have to fight me? Tuoyu burst out laughing. He was very proud of himself. Unbridled and flamboyant equals N_1. The white-clothed sword cultivator and the golden robe cultivator, who had also reached 6,000 steps, looked down and saw Su Fong, who was slowly climbing 1,000 steps below. They sneered in disdain. The black-robed cultivator with bald eyebrows was confused. He couldn't understand why Su Fong was behaving like this. The four of them were baptized by the peaceful aura again. They paused for half a day before continuing to climb up energetically. After the four of them, Li Haojia, the Lord of 5 Poisons, and the monk Shangda all reached the 6,000th step, causing a huge commotion again. The higher-ups of World Palace had already started to discuss who the 7 of them would belong to. They almost got into an argument because of this. Li Haojia, the Lord of 5 Poisons, and the monk Shangda were surprised when they saw Su Fong. Soon after, the 5 Venoms sect master shook his head and said, "This brat Su Fong is planning to shock the world with a single cry." Su Fong was immersed in comprehending the power of nature and the laws of nature. He had completely forgotten about what was happening in the outside world. After 7,000 steps, there were only 3 figures left. Tuoyu, the bald cultivator, and Li Haojia, the arrogant white-clothed sword cultivator, and the golden robe cultivator, who cultivated the path of Emperor, couldn't cross the 7,000-step barrier. The Lord of 5 Poisons and the monk Shangda were the same. Their talents were far beyond this, but their cultivation realm couldn't keep up. They could only stop at around 6,000 steps. Rumble. A giant stone tablet that was thousands of feet tall appeared at the top of the heaven-reaching platform. The square below the heaven-reaching platform, the entire world palace ruins, and even the immortal city below could see it. On the stone tablet, there were names flashing with spiritual light. There were a total of 1,000 names. They were the top 1,000 geniuses who had climbed the heaven-reaching platform in the past. Some of the geniuses whose names were left on the heaven-reaching platform had died long ago. Some had become peerless immortal supremacies, and some were now on the heaven-reaching platform, including some special disciples. The upper echelons of World Palace were all shocked. Whoosh! The 2 special disciples passed through the array formation and arrived at the Heaven Ascension platform. One of the women had a very ordinary appearance, but she had a pair of very strange eyes. Her left eye was as red as fire, while her right eye was as cold as ice. The other one was a cultivator with faint golden skin. He gave off the impression that his skin was cast for bronze. Senior sister Ling Yu, senior brother Jin Wuxiang. As soon as the 2 of them appeared, the other special disciples all came over to greet them. Even the upper echelons of World Palace nodded at the 2 of them. "Ling Yu, we've met our match this time." The special disciple, named Jin Wuxiang's eyes emitted a faint, golden, sharp, divine light. He swept his gaze over Tuoyu, the bald cultivator, and Li Haojia. Ling Yu said indifferently, "To be able to reach 7,000 steps, you have the qualifications to fight with me. This Heaven Ascension Assembly is finally not so boring. Unfortunately, senior brother Feng Ling still won't be able to find an opponent this time." Jin Wuxiang's eyes were filled with wariness. He smiled bitterly. Senior brother Feng Ling's record of 8,118 steps has yet to be broken. No one has ever done it before, and definitely no one will be able to do it in the future. In the Heaven Dao immortal world, who can compete with senior brother Feng Ling? Only at Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect will senior brother Feng Ling have the chance to show his true strength. Everyone was discussing Tuoyu, the ball cultivator, and Lihaojia. As for Su Fong, he was like a snail. He was still slowly climbing the 1,000 steps. Although his speed was slow, his eyes became brighter and brighter, deeper and deeper. Sigh, why is this person's performance so clumsy? Could it be that I misjudged him? Or maybe the Heaven Ascension platform has some kind of restriction on him that makes it difficult for him to use his strength and talent. Jun Moyin's confidence in Su Fong started to waver. In the end, he was completely disappointed and placed his attention on Lihaojia. In the palace where Su Fong lived, everyone in the Yu family stood in the air and stared at the Heaven Ascension stele. Su Fong and Yu Miaoying's names had yet to appear. Everyone in the Yu family was surprised and disappointed. Yu Miaoying was secondary. It was already a surprise for her to be able to reach 2,000 steps and become an official disciple of World Palace. The main thing was Su Fong. In their minds, Tian Bao's name would appear on the Heaven Ascension stele soon, and his name would be at the top. Senior Tian Bao has hidden his strength well. He must be well prepared. No need to worry about him, the Yu family elder said confidently. At this moment, Bai Yufei's disdainful voice sounded. Well prepared? Dream on. Whoosh whoosh. Two figures appeared in the air. In the next moment, a shocking divine aura covered an area of 10,000 feet around the palace. It shackled everyone in the Yu family, making them tremble and unable to move. The Yu family elder looked at the dignified elder beside Bai Yufei and cried out, Peak of the 9th Dao, Saint Realm. You're the Bai family patriarch. The dignified elder scanned the Yu family members with his sharp eyes and said coldly, They're the Yu family members? Bai Yufei's eyes were cold. That's right. Bai Yushu was killed by Tian Bao because of them. All of you deserve to die. If we weren't inside World Palace, I would have used you as bait to lure the murderer of my son, Tian Bao. I would have turned all of you into ashes immediately. The Bai family patriarch snorted coldly, revealing his murderous intent. The Yu family elder shouted in anger, How dare the Bai family attack the Yu family in World Palace? Aren't you afraid that World Palace will pursue this matter? Yu Miaomei also said angrily, When Tian Bao returns, let's see how he'll deal with all of you. Bai Yufei sneered and said, You don't have to worry about the World Palace. As for Tian Bao, he is currently on the Heaven Ascension platform. He has only climbed a little over 1,000 steps. Such a trash is not enough to attract the attention of the upper echelons of the World Palace. Even Jun Moyin would abandon him like a worn-out shoe. Do you still expect him to protect your Yu family? 1,000 steps. That's impossible. The Yu family members were in disbelief. How could the mysterious senior Tian Bao perform so poorly? Let's go. The Bai family patriarch suddenly took out a Dao artifact that looked like a white jade plate. It released a divine aura that enveloped the Yu family members and sucked them into the Dao artifact. Then, the Bai family patriarch and Bai Yufei soared into the sky and left, leaving behind a quiet palace as if nothing had happened. The World Palace cultivators patrolling nearby did not seem to notice what had happened. It was obvious that Bai Yufei had made arrangements in advance. About a month later, there were only 7 days left until the elimination round's deadline. On the Heaven Ascension platform, due to his low cultivation level, Lihaojia stopped at around 670 steps and could not advance any further. However, he caused a huge commotion when he reached such a height with his first Saint Immortal Realm cultivation level. He had such shocking talent and was also a savior. The bald cultivator, on the other hand, stopped at around 7,500 steps. Tuayu did not create a miracle either. He was only 4 steps away from 8,000 steps, but it was difficult for him to advance any further. However, he still refused to give up. He sat cross-legged on the floating platform and rested. It was obvious that he wanted to make the final push. Whoosh, Su Fong finally reached the 3,000 step. There's no time. I have to speed up. Su Fong counted the time with his fingers. There was not much time left. At this moment, an auspicious aura descended and seeped into Su Fong's body. It cleansed Su Fong's body, causing him to feel relaxed like never before. At the same time, Su Fong used Emperor Tianbao's weapon, refining Great Tao, to temper his body like a Tao artifact. Layers of impurities seeped out of his body. Although this baptism was not as powerful as the 9 major tribulations, it was still a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It allowed Su Fong's perfect realm body to transform and improve once again. Moreover, Su Fong used the weapon refining Great Tao to cleanse his body. It was more than 10 times more effective than Tuayu, Li Haojia, and the others. This scene, the world palace higher-ups who had been paying attention to Su Fong finally revealed shocked expressions. The other special disciples who had reached the 6,000th step were envious. Buzz, the world's seed, trembled as it frantically absorbed the auspicious aura of the baptism. After the world seed was damaged, the tender leaves formed by the fire cloud emperor body and the black lotus true body became dispirited equals and _1. After absorbing the auspicious aura, it regained its vitality. The heavenly platform has such benefits. It's incredible. Su Fong was surprised and delighted. Such an opportunity was very rare. Su Fong quickly swallowed the King Grade Elixir and the Peak Supreme Grade Yin Yang Immortal Sky Elixir. He used the auspicious aura to refine them and urged the world seed to absorb the elixir. In this way, the world seed and the heavenly Tao palace recovered bit by bit. Although the speed was not that shocking, Su Fong was pleasantly surprised. What is he doing? Su Fong's actions puzzled everyone. This state lasted for a day. Su Fong suddenly opened his eyes. The damage to his world seed and the heavenly Tao palace had recovered by more than 10%. Next, there will be a baptism every 1,000 steps on the floating platform. The effect will definitely be better each time. If I reach the peak, will my heavenly Tao palace and world seed be completely restored? Su Fong looked at the highest point of the heavenly platform. His eyes shone with a hearty light. It's a pity that I can't continue cultivating. I missed such a good opportunity. I don't know if I'll have another chance to climb the heavenly platform in the future. Soon, Su Fong was surprised to find that above the 3,000th step, the power of nature and the power of laws in the formation shackles evolved from below the 3,000th step. It was meaningless to continue comprehending it. Law spoke from a blood jade in his body. There are thousands of Taos, but they're all the same. What's so strange about that? Next, it's time for you to show your edge. Then I'll just show off once and let everyone see Su Fong's peerless style. Swoosh, swoosh. Su Fong stepped on the floating platform step by step as if he was flying. Such a fast speed immediately attracted people's attention. However, people sneered at Su Fong. There were only 7 days left. With such a short time, and the heavenly platform was getting more and more difficult, strength was meaningless. 1,500 steps, 2,000 steps. When he reached 2,900 steps, Su Fong suddenly stopped. He looked at a female cultivator who was about to give up on the floating platform not far away. It was Yu Miaoyin. Believe in yourself, and you can do it. You can do it too. Think about your family and your sister. Su Fong transmitted his primordial spirit to Yu Miaoyin. Can I really reach the 3,000th step and become a core disciple of the heavenly palace? There was hesitation in her eyes. Immediately, Yu Miaoyin gritted her teeth and rushed a few steps forward. Finally, she reached the 3,000th step in one go. I did it. I really did it. Yu Miaoyin shed tears of excitement. She looked at Su Fong with eyes full of gratitude. Su Fong smiled and continued to move forward. He was unstoppable. Equals _ our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1497. Zong, zong, zong. Su Fong's speed did not decrease at all. It only took him an hour to go from 3,000 steps to 6,000 steps. Every 1,000 steps, he would be baptized by a peaceful aura. At the same time, he also swallowed elixirs to restore the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth and the World Seed to more than 5 levels. Such a shocking speed finally attracted everyone's attention. Dong! On the heaven-reaching platform, the congratulatory bell rang again and shook all directions. How can I, Su Fong, be Be a mere celestial prime? Su Fong smiled proudly. Whoosh, Su Fong took large strides forward, crossing a floating platform with each step. Although his speed was much slower, every step he took was incomparably steady and calm. 6,500 steps. 7,000 steps. 7,500 steps. Buzz under the shocked and dumbfounded gazes of the crowd. Heavenly Bao's name kept flashing on the heaven ascension steel in the sky. It rose from a 900th rank at an unbelievable speed. Tian Bao. This name instantly became incomparably dazzling. Su Fong had already surpassed the bald cultivator and was now neck and neck with Toyu. Another peerless genius equals in underscore our exclamation point. Such speed is unbelievable. On the heaven-reaching platform, there were exclamations. The elimination round that everyone thought was about to end was now in a perilous situation. This person is Tian Bao, and that Li Haojia came from Jun Moyan. Jun Moyan has made a great contribution to the World Palace this time. The Celestial Prime expert who had reprimanded Jun Moyan earlier laughed. What did I say before? Tian Bao is a peerless genius and is only slightly inferior to senior brother Fengling. Do you have a right to laugh at him? Jun Moyan was also elated as he mocked back at the red special disciple who had mocked him. Those who had mocked Su Fong earlier all felt their faces burning, as if they had been slapped hard in the face. The other special disciples, including Ling Yu and Jin Wuxiang, who were called the monsters of the World Palace, were also shocked. A strong opponent. This person was definitely a strong opponent in the heaven-reaching competition. Su Fong paused and looked at Tuoyu from afar. He raised the corner of his mouth and smiled disdainfully. Then, he took a few steps and stood on the floating platform at 8,000 steps with ease. Boom! On the Heaven Ascension platform and in the square below, there was a burst of earth-shattering exclamations. I have the bloodline of the ancient giant barbarian tribe. How can I lose to a physical body cultivator? Tuoyu clenched his teeth and let out a thunderous roar. Then, he ignited the ancient giant barbarian tribe's bloodline again and turned into a giant of 300 feet. He burst out with a wild aura and took large strides forward. Boom! Boom! Tuoyu took 3 steps forward. He was only 1 step away from the 8,000th step. Seeing Su Fong so relaxed, everyone had the misconception that the Heaven Ascension platform was nothing more than this. However, after Tuoyu took 3 steps, his skin started to crack, and there were many wounds on his body. Blood spurted out like a fountain. I will definitely be able to take 8,000 steps. Tuoyu let out a roar that sounded like an ancient ferocious beast and stepped out again. Poof! The terrifying power of the shackles was like a mountain pressing down on his body. A stream of blood spurted out from his mouth. He lifted his foot, but it was difficult for him to take another step. In the end, he fell on the floating platform, unable to take another step. Whoosh! A figure appeared at the top of the Heaven Ascension platform. This person was dressed in a simple cloth robe. He looked like a country bumpkin. He was short, but he gave people a feeling of thickness and vastness. He was as deep as the earth. Eldest senior brother. The special disciples all stepped forward and cupped their fists in salute. Ling Yu and Jin Wuxiang also had a respectful look on their faces. Even the upper echelons of World Palace stood up and looked very polite. It was very rare to treat a disciple like this in any sect. This was because this person was the #1 disciple of World Palace, Fengling. He was also the peerless genius in the history of World Palace who was most likely to reach the peak of the Great World. His name was on the highest position of the Heaven Ascension Monument. Fengling. The record on the Heaven Ascension Monument was 8,118 steps. It was also set by this person during a sect test 200,000 years ago. Heavenly Treasure. Fengling murmured this name. His eyes flashed as he looked at Su Fong. Then he said lightly, "This person is not ordinary. Although this person is not ordinary, he is still far from eldest senior brother Fengling. When eldest senior brother set the record, he had only cultivated for 500,000 years. If he waited for the Heaven Ascension platform now, he would definitely reach the peak." Jin Wuxiang said sourly. At most, he can only reach 8,900 steps. Feng Ling's voice was filled with pity. He sat down on the ground and closed his eyes. 8,900 steps. Feng Ling's words shocked everyone. They looked at Feng Ling as if he was a peerless monster. All eyes were on him, and everyone was waiting to see what would happen. Heavenly Treasure. Heavenly Treasure actually reached 8,000 steps on the Heaven Ascension platform. In a house in Heaven Dao, Immortal World's King City, Bai clan leader and Bai Yufei were stunned when they saw the Heaven Ascension monument above World Palace. 8,000 steps. This meant that Heavenly Treasure had the potential to become an immortal sovereign, and a powerful one at that. Even World Palace's most powerful palace lord had only reached this height. Although it was only a possibility, how could World Palace not pay attention to such a peerless genius? Bai clan had offended such a peerless figure. What kind of danger would they be facing next? Originally, they wanted to capture more than 100 people from Yu clan and use them as bait to kill Heavenly Treasure. Now, they had become a hot potato. How should they deal with them? It was impossible to kill all of them. If they took the Yu clan away from World Palace, Bai clan's beautiful eyes would be in the hands of the patrolling World Palace. When the upper echelons came, they would not be able to hide it. When the upper echelons of World Palace were enraged, how could Bai clan deal with the anger of World Palace? Did they have to send all of Yu clan back? Bai clan leader was shocked and stunned. After a long while, he shouted at Bai Yufei, "Didn't you say that Heavenly Treasure wouldn't have any outstanding performance on the Heaven Ascension platform? How did it become like this?" Bai Yufei's heart was filled with innocence. He regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. In just a few days, he had climbed from 1,000 steps to 8,000 steps. This was something that had never happened before in the history of the Heaven Ascension platform. Who could have predicted this? If they had to blame someone, they could only blame Heavenly Treasure's strength and talent. It was too heaven-defying. You have caused the death of Bai clan. Bai clan leader was like an ant on a hot pan. At 8,000 steps, Su Feng was baptized by the Qi of Peace again. His physical body underwent another transformation. His Heaven and Earth Dao Palace and World Seed had recovered to about 70%. 1,000 more steps. Su Feng looked at the peak of the Heaven Ascension platform. He did not care about anything else and continued to climb without hesitation. Due to the recovery of the Heaven and Earth Dao Palace and World Seed, Su Feng did not have to worry as much as before. He could activate part of the World Divine Might. His speed did not slow down because of the increase in difficulty. He still took big steps as if he was flying. 8,100 steps. 8,115 steps. 8,117 steps. The people of Heaven Palace on the Heaven Ascension platform were stunned. They stared at Su Feng. Even Feng Ling opened his eyes. Divine light shot out and pierced through the void, landing on Su Feng. That was because the highest record of the heavenly platform was 8,118 steps. Whoosh, Su Feng did not know what the record was. Even if he knew, he would not care. He took 2 steps and stepped onto the 8,119 floating platform. Dang! The congratulatory bell rang again. Different from before, this time, it was to congratulate him for breaking the record of the Heaven Ascension Steel. Heavenly Treasure. This name was on the Heaven Ascension Steel. The entrance shone brightly. At the peak of the Heaven Ascension platform, the square below, the Heaven Palace ruins, and even the Imperial City below fell into a dead silence. A smile appeared on Feng Ling's originally stiff face. He muttered, "I've finally found someone qualified to fight with me. Very good." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Su Feng walked step by step. He walked past more than 300 floating platforms. His speed finally slowed down. His face was full of fatigue. After 8,000 steps, the shackles increased. It was the limit that Su Feng could bear. Su Feng sat cross-legged on the floating platform. The flesh and bones under his skin broke and turned into blood. He devoured the elixirs crazily. At the same time, he activated the dragon-taming wood and the Black Lotus True Body to recover his energy at an astonishing speed. 8,500 steps. A new record was born. At the same time, It meant that a peerless genius who was close to the peak of the great world was born. He finally stopped. Equals n_1. This person has used up all his energy. It will be difficult for him to take another step. He has less than half a day left. At least he is not that heaven-defying. Although he broke Feng Ling's record, he is still not as good as Feng Ling. The higher-ups of Heaven Palace secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The impact and pressure that Su Feng brought to them was also very strong. Even some of the higher-ups, including some immortal reverends, felt great pressure. The other special disciples all revealed looks of jealousy. As for Jun Moyen, he was grinning from ear to ear. This time, he had done a great deed for Heaven Palace. He might even get a chance to cultivate in the dragon's saliva pool. This is his limit? What a pity. He is still some distance away from me. Feng Ling looked disappointed and got up to leave. At this moment, whoosh, Su Feng abruptly stood up from the ground and took another step forward. The terrifying shackles condensed by the formation shattered with a loud bang. Another floating platform appeared under Su Feng's feet. 8,501 steps. Boom! After a short moment of silence, the huge Heaven Dao, Immortal World's King City, Heaven Palace, and heaven-reaching platform all let out earth-shattering exclamations. Under the focused gazes of numerous practically dumbstruck gazes, Su Feng's figure moved forward swiftly, and he revealed a supreme, domineering aura of pressing forward with all might. Feng Ling stood up. His eyes shone with a terrifying light. Whoosh! Another figure came out of the void and came to the top of the heaven-reaching platform. It was an elder. He was silver like snow, and his eyebrows were like swords. He had an unparalleled aura and the will of the heavenly Tao. Palace Master, the upper echelons, and special disciples of Heaven Palace all came forward to greet him. The Palace Master of Heaven Palace had not appeared in public for 1,000,000 years. They did not expect that the elimination round of the heaven-reaching competition would alarm him. The elder waved his hand and looked at Su Feng. He sighed. The ancestor who made the heaven-reaching platform probably did not expect that a peak expert of the great world would be born on the heaven-reaching platform. One of the upper echelons said in disbelief, "Palace Master, are you saying this person has the potential to reach the peak of the great world? He might be able to reach the top of the heaven-reaching platform?" The Palace Master of Heaven Palace nodded. "If I'm not wrong, this person is still hiding his strength. He is more talented than Feng Ling. He has the strength to reach the top." Everyone was completely shocked. Feng Ling's eyes showed that he was not convinced. Author's note: a new book by a fanatic, martial god of all realms. This guy wrote it better than me. You can go and take a look. =our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1498. Dang dang dang. Every step Su Feng took signified the birth of a new record, and the sound of a bell would resound. The sound of congratulatory bells rang out continuously, forming a movement that shook everyone's soul. Looking at the figure walking on the heavenly platform, as if he was flying, the crowd's mind went blank. On the square below the heavenly platform, the Lord of Five Poisons, who had already left the heavenly platform, said angrily, "This kid, would he die if he didn't cause such a huge commotion?" Li Haojia's eyes were bright. "This guy has grown to such a level, far surpassing me. I'm ashamed." The Five Venoms sect master laughed bitterly. "This sect master is still lagging behind you. According to what you say, this sect master should just kill himself?" Li Haojia chuckled. "It's not your fault that I'm not outstanding enough, but Su Feng is a monster." The two of them were also people with outstanding talent. It had been less than 2,000 years since Li Haojia ascended to the immortal world from Small World, and he had already grown into a peerless immortal emperor, a savior, and a beast catcher. Meanwhile, the Lord of Five Poisons had also reached the peak of the Nine Dao realm in the world immortal realm. It was rare to see such an improvement in the entire great world, and he could be considered a true peerless genius. However, compared to Su Feng, he seemed to be overshadowed. In the end, the Lord of Five Poisons said helplessly, "Comparisons are odious." I can't compare to this kid at all. I'm just asking for it. The monk, the 5 monsters of the ghost Tao, and the others had also gained a lot from climbing the heavenly platform and displayed their extraordinary talents and strength. At this moment, looking at the figure on the heaven ascension platform, the few of them were filled with respect and deep gratitude. If it wasn't for Su Fong, they would still be at the bottom of the desolate immortal realm. How could they have achieved their current achievements and heights? As for Yu Miaoyin, her gaze never left Su Fong. Her eyes were filled with undisguised respect and admiration. Which girl wouldn't be moved by such a peerless man? Whoosh! 8,999 steps. Su Fong was only 1 step away from the peak of the heavenly platform. Everyone held their breaths, and even their hearts stopped beating at this moment. Su Fong's face was pale, and his whole body. Just how terrifying were the shackles on the heaven ascension platform? Although Su Fong looked relaxed, he was actually using all his strength. Su Fong was translation. Su Fong had tried his best to hide his strength, so it was definitely a lot, and Su Fong was hiding his strength. Su Fong was hiding his strength. Was hiding his strength, Su Fong. Coupled with the accumulation of experience under the 3,000 steps of the heavenly platform, Su Fong's comprehension and control of the natural energy and laws of heaven and earth had reached an extremely shocking height. Fong's was translation. Was Dao. Was I. Su Fong decisively made a decision, and then activated the dragon, subduing real body. Roar! Boundless dragon chi burst out from his body, causing Su Fong to involuntarily let out a long howl towards the sky, like a divine dragon descending. The dragon roar resounded through heaven and earth. It was distant, clear, and intimidating. Crack! 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 Su Fong's muscles and bones changed drastically. Green dragon scales appeared on his skin. Even his face and head had transformed into a dragon man. His hands and feet had all transformed into ferocious dragon claws. Dragon race cultivation art. Not only does he have a perfect physical body, but he also cultivates the dragon race cultivation art to such a high level. No wonder he can be so calm on the heavenly platform. Everyone was enlightened. The dragon race was just a legend in the great world. However, in ancient times, they often appeared in the human world. Therefore, the dragon race cultivation art and divine powers were passed down, and they shone in the great war of immortals and demons. Once a human cultivator mastered dragon chi, their physical body would become extremely powerful, comparable to a perfect physical body. In everyone's opinion, Su Fong had a perfect physical body and cultivated the dragon race cultivation art. It was acceptable for him to have such a heaven-defying performance on the heavenly platform. They didn't know that the divine powers Su Fong had mastered were much more powerful than the dragon race cultivation art. Profound yellow tyrant dragon claw break. After forming a seal, Su Fong struck out with a golden palm print. It tore a crack in the array halo on the floating platform that was enough to shackle a sane immortal at the peak of the 9th Tao realm. The next moment, Su Fong charged out forcefully and domineeringly. Relying on the powerful physical strength of his Dragon Man form, he smashed a huge hole in the shackles. Boom! Su Fong stepped out of the shackles, and a 10,000-foot Dharma altar condensed under his feet. It rose slowly. Su Fong used up the last of his strength. His body swayed as if a gust of wind could blow him away. However, at this moment, his figure was like a tall mountain that shook the heavens. It made everyone feel like they could only look up, but could not surpass him. The Dharma altar was much higher than the top of the heavenly platform. Su Fong stood on it, and an aura that looked down on the world arose spontaneously. Clang! 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 The congratulatory bell rang 9 times in a row. The loud sound spread in all directions and shook the heavens. Petals condensed from spiritual light floated down from the array and landed on Su Fong's body. They quickly turned into an abundant and peaceful aura that seeped into Su Fong's body. The peaceful aura on the heavenly platform was actually a kind of heavenly Tao baptism power. Cultivators cultivated in defiance of the heavens. Every time they broke through a major realm, they would have to undergo 9 major tribulations. It was like a punishment from the heavenly Tao. Once the tribulation was over, the heavenly Tao would send down a peaceful aura to help the cultivator undergo a baptism and metamorphosis. It was equivalent to a reward. The heavenly platform was refined by a peerless expert of the World Palace. It contained a certain amount of heavenly Tao aura, which was why it had such a shocking baptism power. It was used as a reward for the heavenly platform trial. A good chance. Without the slightest hesitation, Su Fong took out over 100 King Grey medicinal pills and over 1,000 Peak Grade Yin Yang Immortal Sky pills before swallowing them without any hesitation. With the help of the heavenly Tao's baptism, he didn't have to worry about his body being unable to withstand it. Su Fong's flesh, meridians, bones, true qi, golden core origin, and even the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth formed by the Yang Meridian and World Seed were all trembling as they crazily absorbed the shocking medicinal power and baptism power. His body metamorphosed once again. His flesh, meridians, and bones reached new heights once more. Layers of impurities seeped out of his body, giving off a foul stench. After being damaged, there were traces of cracks on the golden core origin. At this moment, under the effects of the baptism power and the medicinal power of the pills, it gradually healed and finally recovered. The golden elixir of origin emitted a bright light again, and the heavenly cave became extremely deep. The genuine qi, demonic qi, and devil qi that were sealed in the golden elixir of origin were also roaring and rolling, becoming extremely abundant. Within the divine aperture, the sea of dermic power became even more vast. The dermic power boiled, and even the yang immortal became stronger. Unknowingly, Su Fong's cultivation level was also constantly rising, rapidly climbing towards the peak of the 5 paths of Saint Immortal. Of course, what Su Fong cared about the most was the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth. That was the foundation of his cultivation. Under the condition of crazily absorbing the peaceful aura and the medicinal power of the pills, the world seed recovered and grew at an astonishing speed. The 2 tender leaves were full of vitality and shone brightly. This caused the damage to the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth to invisibly recover. It once again shone with a mysterious and dazzling divine light. It's still not enough. Z, help me absorb more peaceful aura. A vicious look flashed in Su Fong's eyes, and then he activated the purple Qi Dharma Spirit. Z is happy to help. The purple Qi Dharma Spirit's voice came from the purple Qi space in his body. Although the heaven-reaching platform was extremely magical, it was still a Tao artifact. It was about the same height as the Xinjia's Gate. The purple Qi Dharma Spirit could even absorb ordinary divine artifacts. It was naturally easy for it to absorb the power of the heaven-reaching platform. A mysterious purple qi spread out from Su Fong's body and circled around him. The next moment equals N_1. The peaceful aura that had stopped descending burst out from the formation again. At first, it condensed into colorful petals, but in the end, it condensed into the shadows of various spiritual herbs, spiritual birds, and spiritual beasts, descending on Su Fong's body. The Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth formed from the 42 yang meridians madly trembled. The world seed flickered with a resplendent luster, becoming even more profound. The energy of the world of yin and yang became even more vast, and the speed and ability to absorb, communicate, and control the energy of the world had nearly doubled. At the same time, Su Fong also used the method of cultivating his own world to temper his body in the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth. At this moment, Su Fong was like a peerless Tao artifact. The Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth was gradually growing from its embryonic form to its true form. In the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth, a kind of cycle of the heavenly Tao appeared. It was as if the heavenly Tao was evolving. What's going on? First, it was the World Palace Lord who had fused with the heaven-reaching platform. How could he not notice that Su Fong was absorbing the power of baptism that had been stored in the Tao artifact for countless years? Moreover, the heaven-reaching platform's Dharma artifact spirit was emitting waves of fear and even subservience. It was as if it had met the king of Dharma artifacts, and the heaven-reaching platform was a subject that trembled and worshipped at the feet of the king. How can this be? Even if this person's talent and strength are heaven-defying, it's impossible for him to absorb so much power of baptism. And why is the heaven-reaching platform's Dharma artifact spirit so afraid? The shock of the World Palace Lord's heart could be imagined. Damn it, if this continues, the heaven-reaching platform's vitality will be greatly damaged. It won't be able to be used again for millions of years. Even its internal world will collapse and be completely destroyed. The World Palace Lord immediately activated the heaven-reaching platform and was about to put it away. He continuously formed seals and tried to activate the heaven-reaching platform. Who knew that the heaven-reaching platform would not respond at all? Communicating with the Dharma artifact spirit was like a stone sinking into the sea. This time, the World Palace Lord was shocked again, but there was nothing he could do. Su Fong was immersed in the wonderful feeling of absorbing the power of peace. How could he care about what was happening outside? At this time, from the depths of his body, Law's voice came out. Su Fong, too much is as bad as not enough. Hurry up and stop. If you continue to devour, you will arouse the suspicion of the World Palace experts. Su Fong could only stop devouring. Although he was somewhat reluctant, he was still very happy. The serious injuries he had suffered before had finally been completely healed. His strength had also undergone a transformation, especially in the Tao Palace of Heaven and Earth. Just these gains alone made this trip to the Heavenly Ascension assembly worthwhile. If he could enter the dragon saliva pool and devour the dragon chi, he would have profited greatly. As for his reputation, Su Fong did not care much. At the peak of the heaven-reaching platform, a celestial venerable level powerhouse looked at Su Fong on the floating platform and said to the Palace Lord, "Palace Lord, should we immediately call Celestial Treasure and recruit him into the World Palace? =_ our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review." Chapter 1499. No need. Tianxia Palace can't recruit such a peerless genius. After the Heavenly Ascension Assembly, let him represent Tianxia Palace and go to Tianming Haotsong sect. The Palace Lord of Tianxia Palace said. In reality, his heart was in pain. The Heavenly Ascension platform's accumulated heavenly path baptism power had been swallowed by Su Fong. In the future, Tianxia Palace's disciples would not have such benefits. Although this person's strength and talent are heaven-defying, why do I have a feeling that he's Tianxia Palace's bane? The Palace Lord of Tianxia Palace became angrier and angrier as he sent out a seal. With a flash of Xianguang, the floating platform under Su Fong's feet suddenly collapsed and turned into nothingness. Su Fong was caught off guard and almost fell. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and used his flying ability, or else he would have made a fool of himself. Oomph. The Palace Lord of Tianxia Palace snorted and waved his sleeve, disappearing into the void. Looks like I've angered this expert of Tianxia Palace. Su Fong chuckled and flew to the square. Swish, 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 swish. Gazes filled with reverence gathered on Su Fong. The eyes of the female cultivators all lit up. Heavenly treasure. It was Tuayu who strode over. Like a ferocious beast, he glanced at Su Fong. Tuayu said coldly, "How impressive of you to reach the top of the Heavenly Ascension platform. But don't be too proud. In the following competition, when you meet me, I promise you won't be able to be arrogant anymore." Then, another voice filled with dissatisfaction sounded. "This is only the elimination round. The following competition is the real test. Having the potential to become a peak expert of the great world doesn't mean anything. Many peerless geniuses have exhausted their talents and become nameless or even die prematurely." 3 cultivators walked over side by side. They were the white-clothed sword cultivator, the golden-clothed cultivator, and the black-clothed bald cultivator who had attracted attention on the Heavenly Ascension platform. The one who spoke was the white-clothed sword cultivator. This person's performance this time was very extraordinary. Originally, Xiao Chun thought that he would be able to shine under everyone's gazes. Who would have thought that all the limelight would be snatched by Su Fong alone? No matter how extraordinary his performance was, he was automatically ignored by everyone. Naturally, he was unconvinced in his heart. At this time, he directly jumped out and ridiculed Su Fong. Su Fong said indifferently, "I relied on my talent and strength to stand at the top of the heaven-reaching platform. So what if I'm proud and arrogant?" Su Fong scanned Toyu and the white-clothed sword cultivator with an icy gaze full of disdain. He continued, "Talent and strength are not as good as others, but this is nothing. You can rely on your own efforts to catch up and surmount mountains. This is the heart of a cultivator. And all of you, other than jealousy, what else do you have? You're not qualified to be called cultivators. No matter how outstanding your talents are, your future achievements will be limited." Toyu and the white-clothed swordsman's expressions changed. They were instantly speechless. As for the golden-clothed cultivator and the black-clothed cultivator with bald eyebrows, their eyes flashed. Then, they revealed a thoughtful expression. Su Fong looked at Toyu. "The matter of you injuring the Yu clan's patriarch before this, I will settle it with you in the following competition. As for you," the divine light swept across the white-clothed sword cultivator's body. Su Fong said domineeringly, "If you are unconvinced, you can challenge me in the competition. However, let me give you a word of advice. That will only bring shame to yourself." Su Fong no longer paid attention to the two of them. He turned around and left. "Senior." Yu Miaoing hurriedly caught up with Su Fong and walked side by side with him. This scene made countless female cultivators feel envious and jealous. Yu Miaoing, who had a heavenly beauty, suddenly became detestable in the hearts of many female cultivators. "Tian Bao, I will use you as a whetstone to improve my reputation." The white-clothed sword cultivator was still unconvinced. He shouted at Su Fong's back, "I am your whetstone. In my eyes, you're not even qualified to be my stepping stone." Su Fong's indifferent voice sounded. The white-clothed sword cultivator's eyes immediately burned with flames of anger. Su Fong returned to the palace where he lived. There is no one here." Seeing that there was no one in the palace, Su Fong and Yu Miaoing were both surprised. Li Haojie and the Lord of Five Poisons also returned. Li Haojie said, "Could they have gone somewhere else?" Su Fong immediately activated his great perfection ability. Together with the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique, he instantly sensed almost the entire world palace ruins. However, he still did not find the aura of the Yu clan. "I'm afraid something has happened," Su Fong said in a low voice. He cultivated the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique and could sense the unseen fate. Although he could not accurately predict it, he could feel that the Yu clan was in a bad situation. Yu Miaoing's face turned pale with a swoosh. Su Fong's brain worked quickly, trying to guess the person who attacked the Yu clan. After a while, Su Fong's eyes exuded a cold, killing intent. Other than the Bai clan, there's no one else. Why? Even if the Yu clan had any enemies, who would dare to come to the World Palace for revenge? There was also the possibility that it was the brocade-robed cultivator whose Dao path was destroyed by Su Fong. However, Su Fong quickly denied this possibility. The brocade-robed cultivator could be chased away by Jun Moyan from the palace. Obviously, there was no powerful force behind him. It was unlikely that he would attack the Yu clan in the World Palace. The only possibility was the Bai clan. Bai Yufei was a core disciple of the World Palace. Only he had the ability to capture the Yu clan without alerting the people of the World Palace. Bai Yufei attacked the Yu clan. It's impossible for him to not make a move. However, he was still captured. He must have bribed the World Palace cultivators patrolling this area beforehand. Let's go and get to the bottom of this. Thinking of this, Su Fong's deep eyes flashed with a ruthless light. He released a divine aura and flew up into the sky with Yu Miaoing. Li Haojie, the Lord of Five Poisons, and the others followed closely behind. The palace that Su Fong lived in was an area specially designated by the World Palace for the important people who came to the World Palace to rest. This area was thousands of miles wide. However, with Su Fang's perfection stage ability, he could easily cover this area. Over there, Su Fang sensed that there was a huge palace in the center of the area. There were world palace cultivators coming in and out of it. Moreover, there was a powerful aura in the palace that had reached the 5 Dao Saint immortal realm. It was obviously the person in charge of this area. Whoosh, Su Fang appeared in the sky above the palace. The person in charge of this area, please come out. Su Fang's voice spread throughout the palace. He seemed to be very restrained. If it was not necessary, he did not want to have a direct conflict with the world palace. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than 10 world palace cultivators flew over. The leading cultivator shouted coldly, "How dare you? This is the world palace's important area. Who are you to be so presumptuous? Leave or don't blame the world palace for being rude." Su Fang cupped his fists and said, "My friend went missing in the world palace for no reason, so I'm here to ask about it. Please ask the person in charge of this area to come out. Who do you think you are to be so arrogant? What does your friend's disappearance have to do with the world palace? You want to disturb the Lord? Scram. If you don't scram, I'll kill you." The cultivator shouted domineeringly. The other cultivators sneered and looked like they were ready to attack at any time. Scram. Even a clay Buddha would be angry. Moreover, Su Fang was not a pushover. He strode toward the bottom of the palace. "You're courting death." The world palace cultivators attacked one after another. They used their divine abilities and charged towards Su Fang. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fang released a surge of dragon chi that swept up a terrifying aura. It shattered the aura released by the world palace cultivators. The world palace cultivators who attacked also spat out blood from the impact. "How dare you behave so atrociously in the world palace? You're really arrogant and lawless." A majestic voice sounded. Then, an elder with a goatee jumped out of the palace and stood in front of Su Fang. "How many benefits did Bai Yufei give you? How dare you let him do as he pleases in the world palace and attack my friend?" Su Fang's eyes suddenly turned sharp. At the same time, he released a sovereign aura that formed a shocking shackle that shrouded the elder with the goatee. Su Fu's path of the emperor had surpassed the limits of the great world. How powerful was it? Although he did not use his full strength, it was still extremely shocking. Moreover, the other party's cultivation was lower than Su Fang's. The elder with the goatee, who was a 5 Dao Saint immortal and a cultivator of the world palace, who cultivated the heavenly Dao and possessed the will of the heavenly Dao, was trembling under Su Fang's sovereign aura. "Who are you? How dare you attack me in the world palace? You're courting death." The elder with the goatee was confident that he had the world palace behind him. Moreover, he was currently in the world palace, so he was still very domineering. He threatened Su Fang. "You're indeed in cahoots with the Bai family. As the person in charge of this area, you're in cahoots with others. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the world palace's strict laws?" It turned out that Su Fang didn't use his sovereign aura to shackle the elder with the goatee. Instead, he used it to intimidate him and cause him to lose his mind and his Dao heart to become unstable. At the same time, Su Fang activated his great perfection ability. He could clearly sense that the elder's heartbeat suddenly sped up when he mentioned Bai Yufei. He was certain that the elder knew about the disappearance of the Yu family. The elder with the goatee flatly denied. "Nonsense. What proof do you have?" "My words are proof. If you really want proof, I only need to use soul search on you and strip away your memories. Everything will be clear then," Su Fang said in a domineering and overbearing manner. He took a step forward and arrived in front of the old man. Then, he punched the old man's abdomen. Boom! The elder's dantian and the golden core in it were shattered by Su Fang's punch. He let out a shrill scream. The cultivators of the world palace nearby were all pale with fright at Su Fang's ruthlessness and strength. Even Yu Miaoyin was scared witless. This unfathomable heavenly treasure senior usually looked very gentle, but once his bottom line was crossed, he showed no mercy. Many cultivators nearby were alarmed. They watched from afar and were shocked by Su Fang's actions. Soon after, they all sneered. How dare you be so arrogant in the World Palace? You really don't know how to write the word death. Su Fong pressed his right palm on the elder's head. He was really going to use soul search on him. Stop! A majestic voice came from afar. Then, Jun Moyen and a white-haired elder passed through the array. Before the voice finished, they appeared in the sky above Su Fong's palace. The elder with the goatee gritted his teeth and said to Su Fong, I don't care who you are. You dare to destroy my Dao path. Only death awaits you. No matter how strong you are, can you be stronger than a venerable immortal? Su Fong smiled faintly and let go of his right hand. The elder with the goatee shouted to Venerable Immortal Bai, Venerable Immortal Bai, save me. This person committed a crime in front of the World Palace. He doesn't take the World Palace seriously. Venerable Immortal Bai, please help me. Equals _ our download address. Mobile reading. Bibliographic review. Chapter 1500. Su Fong could tell from the voice that the venerable white beside Jun Moyen was the expert from World Palace who stopped Tuayu that day. Su Fong cupped his fists and said politely, Greetings, venerable celestial. I don't care if you're a heavenly treasure or an earth treasure. You're dead this time. I'm going to grind your bones to dust. Shut up, venerable white shouted coldly. The old man with the goatee trembled in fear, but he didn't dare to make a sound. Brother Heavenly Treasure, you're so angry. How did this old man offend you? Jun Moyen asked with a smile. He was a special disciple of World Palace. Naturally, he wasn't someone the old man could compare to. Su Fong slowly told him about what happened in the Yu family. How dare you? White Celestial frowned as he looked at the old man with the goatee. His eyes emitted a cold light. The old man was completely stunned. Who's that young cultivator? He crippled a Saint Celestial expert in World Palace. Why are the higher-ups of World Palace siding with him? Could he be a genius from a sect outside heaven, Dao, immortal world? Maybe he's a genius from heaven's mandate, Hao Tsang sect. That old man with a goatee is in trouble this time. The cultivators who were watching from afar were also stunned. Then they started discussing. The old man with the goatee said with a trembling voice, Venerable Celestial, I'm from World Palace. Jun Moyen's eyes also flashed with a sharp light. He pointed at Su Fong and said to the old man with a goatee, Do you know who he is? Before the old man with the goatee could speak, Jun Moyen said slowly, He's called Heavenly Treasure. Heavenly Treasure? Why does this name sound so familiar? Ah, why you're the genius who just reached the top of the heavenly platform. Heavenly Treasure. The old man with a goatee thought the name Heavenly Treasure was familiar, but he couldn't connect Su Fong with the number one person in the heavenly platform. Now that Jun Moyen had reminded him, he immediately came to his senses, and his face turned pale. Heavenly Treasure, he's Tianbao, the peerless figure who soared to the sky in the elimination round that just ended. The cultivators in the distance naturally saw the name on the Heaven Ascension stele, but they did not recognize Su Fong. Now that they finally knew Su Fong's identity, they were all shocked and in awe. The White Immortal said imposingly, If Qianbao's friends are harmed in any way, I will exterminate your entire clan. Why aren't you telling the truth? The old man with the goatee couldn't be arrogant anymore. He told them everything about how he accepted Bai Yufei's offer and how he allowed the Bai clan's patriarch to capture the Yu clan. Bai clan. Su Fong's eyes flashed with killing intent. This time, the Bai clan's actions had completely enraged him. Reverend White said, Tianbao, you don't have to worry about your friend. This happened in World Palace, and World Palace disciples are involved. I will naturally help you save your friend and seek justice. There were only 4 reverends in World Palace, including the Palace Master. This Reverend White was undoubtedly a big shot in World Palace, and his words carried weight. With his promise, not only Bai Yufei, but the entire Bai clan would face destruction. Su Fong was worried that if the Bai clan had already attacked the Yu clan, even if he killed Bai Yufei and exterminated the Bai clan, it would be meaningless. Men, pass down my orders. Search for the whereabouts of the Bai clan's patriarch and Bai Yufei. If they resist, kill them, and then exterminate the entire Bai clan. Once the World Palace's big shot was angry The entire Heaven Dao immortal world will be turned upside down, and blood would flow like rivers. The Bai clan was a cultivation family in the Heaven Dao immortal world. They were very powerful and had more than 10 million cultivators and forces under them. However, under the fury of World Palace's thunder, they would only be crushed to dust. Reverend Immortal, there's no need. They didn't expect Bai Yufei and the Bai clan's patriarch to arrive at this time. Everyone was surprised. Reverend Immortal. After bowing to Reverend White, the Bai clan's patriarch took out a white jade plate-shaped Dao artifact and released figures from it. They were the captured Yu clan members. Su Fong sensed the Yu clan members and found that they weren't injured. Only then did he calm down. Sister. Yu Miaomei threw herself into Yu Miaoyin's arms and cried. She was clearly frightened. Tianbao, you must have saved us. I knew you would come to save us. Yu Miaomei cried and pointed at Bai Yufei and the Bai clan's patriarch. Tianbao, they are bad people. They captured us and used us as bait to kill you. Reverend White said coldly, you dare to sneak into World Palace. You really don't put World Palace in your eyes. The Bai clan is really bold. Tianbao will be the peak expert of the great world in the future. Such a peerless genius. Even the palace lord was alerted and valued him. You dare to capture his friends. Who gave you such courage? The Bai clan's patriarch smiled bitterly. The Bai clan has made a big mistake this time and offended Lord Tianbao. When I come to World Palace, I will give World Palace and Lord Tianbao a satisfactory explanation. Please forgive me, Reverend Immortal. Reverend White snorted. As long as you can calm Tianbao's anger, I won't make things difficult for the Bai clan. Thank you, Reverend Immortal. The Bai clan's patriarch said gratefully. Then he bowed deeply to Su Fong. I have eyes but failed to see. Please forgive me. This is the explanation you want to give me. Su Fong raised the corner of his mouth and revealed a mocking smile. His eyes were cold. It wasn't that Su Fong's heart was cold and ruthless. If he didn't amaze everyone on the heavenly platform, how would he be valued by World Palace? If not, no one in the Yu clan other than Yu Miaoyin would be able to survive. Even Su Fong himself would suffer from the Bai clan's crazy revenge. The strong preyed on the weak. This was the rule of the great world. It was extremely cruel. If a ferocious beast stretched out its claws and was not cut off, it would feel pain. Soon, it would show its ferocious fangs again. How could Su Fong let the Bai clan off so easily? The Bai clan will give Lord Tianbao an explanation. The Bai clan's patriarch nodded. His deep eyes flashed with ruthlessness and decisiveness. Suddenly, the Bai clan's patriarch quickly formed a seal and shot out a white sword ray. It shot towards Bai Yufei's forehead. Chi! Bai Yufei's head was pierced and a bloody hole appeared. He fell straight down, his face still filled with disbelief. The Bai clan's patriarch said, this happened because of Bai Yufei. I killed him, hoping to calm Lord Tianbao's anger. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. He was also shocked by the Bai clan's patriarch's ruthlessness. However, Su Fong had no intention of letting the Bai clan off. He said coldly, Bai clan's patriarch, do you think this is enough? The Bai clan's patriarch gritted his teeth. The Bai clan controls more than 10 immortal cities in the Heaven Dao immortal world. We are willing to give 3 of the most prosperous cities to Lord Tianbao as compensation. There is some sincerity, but it's far from enough. If I want these 3 immortal cities, I can take them directly. I don't need you to give them up. Su Fong said lightly. Fine. It's all my fault for being blind. I brought this disaster to the Bai clan. The Bai clan's patriarch smiled bitterly. He suddenly raised his hand and slapped his dantian. He actually pulled out his own golden core. He clenched his hand, and the golden core immediately shattered. The Bai clan's patriarch's aura immediately weakened. In order to protect the clan, he destroyed his own golden core. He was so ruthless that everyone watching was moved. If Lord Tianbao is still not satisfied, then the Bai clan can only wait to be destroyed. We won't fight back. The Bai clan's patriarch said with difficulty. Su Fong said lightly, the 3 immortal cities will be given to the Yu clan. I won't pursue the previous grievances. Go, take care of the clan's disciples. Otherwise, they will bring disaster to the Bai clan sooner or later. Thank you for your magnanimity. The Bai clan's patriarch let out a sigh of relief. The white immortal waved his hand. Go. The World Palace won't pursue the Bai clan's crimes. Thank you, immortal. The Bai clan's patriarch looked like he had been pardoned. He cupped his fists towards Su Fong and the white immortal and left with the help of 2 World Palace cultivators. They returned to the palace where Su Fong lived. The white immortal naturally tried to win over Su Fong and Li Haojia. The Lord of 5 Poisons, the great monk Shangde, and the others were taken into the true dragon realm by Su Fong. No one knew that they were related to Su Fong. After sending off the white immortal and Jun Moyen and comforting the Yu clan, Su Fong immediately left the World Palace. He flew out of the Heaven Dao Immortal Realm's King City and arrived at a mountain peak. It turned out that Su Fong had devoured a large amount of baptism power and pills on the Heaven Ascension platform. Not only had his golden core origin completely recovered, but his cultivation base had also reached the peak of the 5 Dao Saint Immortal Realm. Tribulation Chi that was about to break through to the 6 Dao Saint Immortal Realm surged in the depths of his body. He was about to break through. Su Fong sat cross-legged on the mountain peak. He took out resources to create a spirit-gathering formation and a detection formation. Then he released the Undead King to hide nearby. With the Undead King, a celestial supremacy, by his side, there was no need to worry about being disturbed during the breakthrough. Therefore, there was no need to create a defensive formation. After that, Su Fong gathered all his strength to break through. After a period of time, Tribulation Chi spurted out of Su Fong's body, instantly forming a frenzied, burning momentum. Since Su Fong's body had been cleansed on the Heaven Ascension platform, there were not many impurities in his body. The time taken to break through was also much shorter than before. After a few days, the tribulation fire slowly disappeared. His body welcomed the power of breaking through. His meridians were regenerating, and his golden core origin and divine aperture were constantly transforming. I wonder where my second primordial spirit is. Otherwise, as my main body transforms, my second primordial spirit's primordial spirit power will also transform. At this moment, Su Fong thought of his second primordial spirit. The joy of breaking through in his heart faded a little. After the tribulation fire was completely extinguished, Su Fong entered the 6 Dao Saint Immortal Realm. After that, Su Fong began devouring pills and spiritual items. At the same time, he activated the ethereal primordial realm's divine ability to absorb the natural energy of heaven and earth to replenish the empty true chi in his body. Almost a month later, Su Fong, who had stabilized his 6 Dao Saint Immortal Realm, returned to World Palace. Because every cultivator who participated in the Heaven Ascension platform had expended a lot of energy, World Palace gave them a month to recover. Su Fong returned at the right time. 3 days later, it would be the official competition of the Heaven Ascension Assembly. On this day, Jun Moyen and a 9 Dao Saint Immortal Realm Elder from World Palace personally came to accompany Su Fong and Li Haojia to a dojo deep in World Palace. Su Fong and Li Haojia arrived. Su Fong, especially, immediately became the center of attention. People looked at Su Fong with reverence and even fanatical worship. Of course, there was no lack of people who were unconvinced and eager to try. Li Haojia sent a voice transmission with his essence spirit. Brother Su, you become a fat sheep now. Everyone wants to step on you and become famous in the Heaven Dao Immortal World. Su Fong smiled faintly. I'm afraid I'll disappoint many people this time. =our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1501. On the heaven-reaching platform, Su Fong shocked the world as he climbed to the top. He was like a sun rising into the sky, extremely dazzling. Such an achievement was undeniable and envied by others. Reaching the top of the heaven-reaching platform didn't mean he was the strongest. Many cultivators wanted to step on Su Fong and become famous in the Heaven Dao celestial world and receive the attention of World Palace. Then they would use this chance to enter the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect and become a Taoist that the heavens mandate how Tsang's sect focused on. Apart from Toayu, the white-robed sword cultivator, and the other peerless geniuses of the Heaven Tao, celestial world, there were also special disciples of World Palace, including the three main disciples. The number one disciple of World Palace, Feng Ling, didn't do it for fame or fortune, but he couldn't wait to fight with Su Fang. More than 1,000 participants who had passed the elimination round, in addition to more than 50 special disciples selected by World Palace, waited in the training hall for 5 minutes before the upper echelons of World Palace appeared. White Immortal appeared. Geniuses of the Heaven Tao, celestial world, the official competition is next. I'll first announce the rules. Listen carefully. Many of the cultivators participating in the competition fell silent. The official competition is a competition of combat ability, but it's not a simple battle royale or one-on-one duel. It's a competition of star lanterns. The Starry River is actually an ancient starry abyss. It was created as a trial space by the peerless experts of the World Palace with supreme abilities. After entering the space, each participant will light up a star lantern. Not only do they have to protect their star lanterns, but they also have to steal other people's star lanterns for their results. After completing the Star River, they will be ranked according to the number of star lanterns they steal. The moment White Immortal Monarch spoke, the cultivators began to whisper. Aside from the geniuses with absolute strength, the other cultivators were very nervous. The Star Abyss was extremely dangerous. Even if a Saint Immortal Realm expert entered it, the expert would suffer a certain level of shackles, and the expert's strength would be affected. Also, while protecting their star lanterns, they had to steal other people's star lanterns as much as possible. This competition was a bit cruel, because there are World Palace disciples participating for the sake of fairness. After entering the Star River, the power of the formation will mask the participants' appearances. As a result, no one will know who your opponent is. If your star lantern is stolen, you can choose to withdraw. Activate your participant token, and you will be automatically sent out of the Starry River by the formation. However, it is not without danger. The Star River has all kinds of dangers, just like the Star Abyss. When fighting with other participants, there is a possibility of dying. If you are afraid, you can withdraw now. At this point, the divine light in venerable White Immortal's eyes swept across the participants. Although some people were afraid, after a moment of hesitation, they were unwilling to let go of this opportunity. Moreover, if they withdrew now, how could they face others in the future? Venerable White nodded and said, "Very good. A cultivator should have a fearless heart. If you can't even retreat from this little danger, how can you talk about cultivation? Get ready. The Star River will open in half an incense stick's time." More than 1,000 cultivators sat cross-legged on the ground, quietly waiting for the Star River trial space to open. Jun Moyen sent a telepathic message to Su Fang, "Brother Tianbao, once you enter the Starry River, your appearance will be concealed. Now you don't have to worry about being surrounded by other contestants. Hopefully, I won't meet you when the time comes and get eliminated by you." Su Fang smiled faintly and didn't respond. He hoped that he would be surrounded by other cultivators. That way, he would be able to collect the star lanterns faster. The white-robed sword cultivator looked at Su Fang from afar and sneered. Then, he sent a telepathic message to the golden-robed cultivator. "Brother Wang, once we enter the Star River, let's work together and kill Tian Bao. We will use his head to improve our reputations. What do you think?" The golden-robed cultivator replied, "Just now, the World Palace's higher-ups said that once we enter the Star River, the participants' appearances will be concealed. How can you find Tian Bao among more than 1,000 cultivators? If you accidentally encounter the three monsters of World Palace, you won't even be able to enter the top 100. Jin Wuxiang, Ling Yu, Feng Ling. The three disciples of World Palace were called the three monsters of World Palace. The arrogant white-robed sword cultivator's eyes were also filled with fear. "Brother Wang, don't worry. I have a special ability that uses my eyes to cast. It can see through all formations. When the time comes, I will find Tian Bao easily." The golden-robed cultivator hesitated. Thinking of the scene where Su Fong reached the top of the heaven-reaching platform, the golden-robed cultivator shook his head and said, Tianbao is unfathomable. I think we should forget about it. The white-robed sword cultivator's face darkened. The white-robed sword cultivator looked around and saw a bald cultivator beside him. His eyes immediately lit up. This bald cultivator was none other than the great monk Shangda. In the elimination round, his performance was very shocking. Naturally, he attracted the white-robed sword cultivator's attention. He sent a telepathic message. Master, do you want to kill Tianbao and become famous in the Heaven Dao immortal world? Hearing the white-robed sword cultivator's telepathic message, the monk was shocked. After hesitating, he replied, I am a Buddhist cultivator. I don't kill. However, if you have any treasures that can move me, I can make an exception for you. I happen to have a Buddhist artifact, the golden symbol. Its grade has reached the peak of the supreme grade. It is a treasure that I obtained in an ancient ruin during one of my adventures. After this matter is completed, I will definitely give it to you as a reward. Master, you should find someone else. The monk looked like he wouldn't act until he got something. The white-robed sword cultivator had no choice but to take out the golden symbol magic treasure. It was a very precious peak extreme grade Buddhist weapon. It's a deal. The monk accepted the Buddhist weapon without hesitation. He was very happy. The white-robed swordsman took out 2 green pearls and gave one to the monk. He said, after entering the Star River, we can sense each other's presence through the pearls. When the time comes, we will gather together and try to find the heavenly treasure. 15 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. Star River trial space, open. White Immortal suddenly made a seal. A ray of light appeared in the sky above the dojo. After a flash, it condensed into a ray of light vortex. It was obviously the passage to Star River trial space. The Heavenly Ascension Assembly has officially begun. Go in. Remember, you only have half a year. After half a year, the results will be calculated at the end of Star River. White Immortal shouted coldly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The cultivators of World Palace flew into the air and disappeared into the ray of light. Then the other participants, including Su Fong, flew into the air and came to the ray of light vortex. Everyone went through the passage and entered Star River trial space. Whoosh. Su Fong was swept by the power of space and came to a desolate space. The space here was empty. Huge pieces of star debris, as well as various materials and dust, floated into space, forming a river of death stars. Even with Su Fong's great perfection ability, he couldn't see the end. It was more than 10,000 miles away. The divine power of nature became violent and chaotic here. The chaotic power swept up all kinds of materials and dust, dancing in the void. Even some of the huge star debris were swept up and drifted slowly. The energy became extremely chaotic. There was almost no trace of natural spirit chi here. It was very difficult to use heaven and earth essence and borrow power from the stars. Even divine powers and Tao artifacts were suppressed. Such a competition environment was a severe test for any participant. If it was in nature, the distance of 10,000 miles in Star River would be covered by a sane immortal realm cultivator in an instant. However, here, who would dare to use the ability to break through space? Moreover, they still had to snatch the star lantern. Half a year wasn't enough time. There was a movement above his head. A ball of starlight flashed and condensed into a 1-foot-tall flame. It was like a lamp hanging 3 feet above his head. No matter where Su Fong went, the star lantern above his head followed. Su Fong peeled off another young immortal and flew out of his body. He saw the appearance of his original body. It was indeed covered by starlight, and there was a power that blocked perception, making his appearance look blurry and difficult to distinguish. Even the Taoist robe on his body was dyed with a layer of starlight, making it difficult to see the color and style. This Star River trial space is amazing. However, I have the great perfection ability and am not blinded by the trial space array. The power that blocks perception is not a problem for me. Su Fong smiled confidently. The Star River is so big. It won't be that easy to find other participants. After entering the trial space, the participants would be sent to different places and would not gather together. The Star River was so vast that it would not be easy to snatch more star lanterns. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. He activated a surge of world energy and flew toward the vast Star River formed by the star fragments. As he flew, Su Fong activated his great perfection ability to sense. With Su Fong's current cultivation, he could sense an area of nearly 1,000 miles, even in the desolate star abyss. He was much stronger than ordinary celestial supremacies. In less than an hour, Su Fong immediately discovered that there were 3 cultivators attacking a participant more than 100 miles ahead. The participant who was being attacked was very strong. He had reached the level of a 3 Dao Saint Immortal. The 3 cultivators who were attacking him were slightly weaker than him. They were only 2 Dao Saint Immortals and a tall and mighty 3 Dao Saint Immortal. However, under the joint attack of the 3, the cultivator was obviously no match. His chest was pierced by a sword chi, and he was severely injured. "I'll give you my star lantern. I'll withdraw." There was no prohibition against killing participants in the trial space. The cultivator who was being attacked had no choice but to hand over his star lantern to save his life. The tall and burly participant shot out a Xian Guang to wrap around his star lantern and let it float above his head. Now he had 2 star lanterns. Unexpectedly, just as the cultivator handed over his star lantern and was about to activate his token to leave, a sword chi suddenly shot out. The 3 Dao Saint Immortal cultivator behind him suddenly unleashed a sharp sword chi that struck the back of his head. Then, the sword chi exploded and blasted his head into pieces, causing his brain to splatter everywhere. "Do you think you can save your life by giving up? What an idiot." The tall and burly cultivator smiled ferociously. Although his expression could not be seen, the ruthlessness in his eyes was clearly visible. =our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1502. The other 2 looked at him warily and retreated. "AP, don't worry. Since I've reached an agreement with you to kill the contestants together and split the star lanterns equally, I won't attack you," the tall cultivator promised solemnly. Whoosh, Su Fong flew over slowly. "Another one who wants to die. Let's kill him together, and the star lanterns will be yours." The tall cultivator laughed maniacally and charged at Su Fong with an explosive aura. The other 2 didn't hesitate and charged at Su Fong. "You think I'm a weakling?" Su Fong sneered. He used his great perfection stage ability and scanned the tall cultivator with his deep eyes. "You're actually a special disciple of World Palace. No wonder you dare to act so recklessly in the trial space of the Star River." Su Fong didn't move and looked at the tall cultivator coldly. "Hand over the star lanterns in your head." The special disciple of World Palace was like a terrifying beast. He had an aura that could crush everything and formed a shocking shackle that shrouded Su Fong. Boom! Su Fong didn't use any divine ability. Instead, he used his physical strength and punched out. The shackle around him shattered. The next moment, the destructive punch caused a shocking shock in the star abyss and swept up the debris within 10 miles. The special disciple of World Palace broke his aura and punched him in the chest. "Who are you? What a terrifying divine power." The special disciple of World Palace's aura was shattered and his physical body was severely injured. He was sent flying more than 100 feet away and vomited blood. Boom! Su Fong stepped forward and punched out twice in a row. He was unstoppable and severely injured the other 2 contestants. "Hand over the star lanterns, and I'll spare your lives." A sharp cold light shot out from his eyes and swept over the 2 Dao Saint and Immortal Realm contestants. "Here." The 2 didn't hesitate to cut off the star lanterns above their heads and threw them to Su Fong. Then, they activated their tokens and were swept away by the power of space and disappeared from the trial space. Su Fong didn't stop them. As a result, there were 3 star lanterns above Su Fong's head. The special disciple of Star Palace turned around and fled deep into the Star River. "Can you escape?" Few, even Saint Immortal Realm cultivators, would be shackled within the star abyss. Moreover, because there was practically no natural spirit energy of the heavens and the earth, they could only execute divine abilities with their own true energy. Thus, the consumption of true energy was extremely great, and it was difficult to replenish it. However, Su Fong possessed the power of a world. The shackles of the abyss had no effect on him at all. The loss of his physical strength was also negligible. 10 breaths later, Su Fong caught up to the World Palace cultivator. I'm a special disciple of the World Palace. Let me go, and I'll compensate you after we leave the Star River. The World Palace cultivator said arrogantly. So what if you're a special disciple of World Palace? You wanted to steal my star lantern and kill me. Why should I let you go? Su Fong said indifferently. I'll give you the star lantern, and I'll withdraw from the competition. Tell me your identity if you have the guts. I'd like to see which peerless genius dared to steal the star lantern of a special disciple of the World Palace. The special disciple of the World Palace said arrogantly. After cutting off the 2 star lanterns above his head, he threw them at Su Fong. You still want to take revenge? Unfortunately, you won't have such a chance. Not only do I want your star lantern, but I also want your head. When you made your move, you should have been prepared to be killed. Su Fong said domineeringly. He executed the Dragon Clan's profound yellow tyrant dragon claw and struck out a huge claw mark. With an aura that could crush everything, it covered the special disciple of the World Palace. Dragon Clan's divine ability. You're a heavenly treasure. I can't accept this. Puff, the special disciple of the World Palace, let out a voice of despair and regret as his physical body was torn apart by the claw mark. Only 4 star lanterns. There are more than 1,000 participants. If I want to enter the top 10, even 100 star lanterns might not be enough. Half a year's time isn't enough. If I search for them one by one, how long would it take? After a moment of silence, Su Fong raised his eyebrows. Instead of taking them one by one, why don't I wait until I have a certain number and take them all at once? Therefore, Su Fong struck out a peak's supreme grade flying sword and rode it towards the end of the Star River. Su Fong's flying Dharma treasure, the feather fan, had already been eliminated. Now that he was flying on the sword in the Star River, with his ability to control Dharma treasures, his speed was naturally astonishing. Moreover, Su Fong had activated the power of the Yin-Yang world, so he wasn't afraid of the shackles in the abyss. Other than slowing down in some extremely dangerous areas, he was as fast as lightning. Along the way, Su Fong met many participants who were fighting for star lanterns. He was too lazy to care about them. He only needed to wait at the end of the Star River and take them all at once. When those participants saw Su Fong actually fly so unscrupulously on his sword in the Star Abyss, they couldn't help but be dumbstruck, and there weren't many who didn't have eyes that dared to come forward and stop him. Outside the trial space, about 3 months later, a scroll-like Dharma treasure unfolded in the air. It was about 1,000 feet long, and there were names condensed from Xianguang on it. It showed the ranking in the trial space equals N_1. Not only could it be seen clearly in the World Palace's cultivation court, but also within the World Palace. There were people who could spread the news, so the entire Heaven Dao Immortal World's King City knew the ranking of the Star River trial space like the back of their hand. Half the time had passed. The names on the scroll kept decreasing until there were only about 500 people left. Tuayu is ranked first. This person has the bloodline of the ancient giant barbarian tribe. Not only is he talented, but his battle strength is also so shocking. Tuayu will definitely be able to enter the top 3 in this Heaven Ascension assembly. Second is Ling Yu. Third is Jin Wuxiang. Why is Feng Ling missing from the 3 monsters of the World Palace? Wu Mei, Wang Hao Li Haojia, Luo Jiansheng, Lord of 5 Poisons, Shangde, these people occupy the top 10. Strange, why don't I see Heavenly Treasure's name? What people paid the most attention to was undoubtedly Heavenly Treasure that's shown on the Heaven Ascension platform. However, they couldn't find his name even after searching the top 100. In the end, they found Heavenly Treasure's name after the top 500. Everyone was dumbfounded. This time, no one mocked him. Instead, they were even more curious. Last time, heavenly treasure was unknown at first, but in the end he stood at the top of the heaven ascension platform and set an unprecedented record. What kind of glory would he create this time? The upper echelons of the World Palace and the Cultivation Court weren't paying the most attention to heavenly treasure, but the number one disciple of the World Palace, Fengling's ranking was at the bottom, and it hadn't changed at all. That was because Fengling didn't try to steal other people's star lanterns. Instead, he went to the end of the Star River as if waiting for something. What an arrogant Fengling. He's waiting for the battle with heavenly treasure. As for the ranking, he doesn't care at all. The upper echelons of the World Palace were all looking forward to the battle between heavenly treasure and Fengling. What kind of peerless talent would appear? Whoosh, a sword light shuttled through the Star River like a bolt of lightning. It's him, heavenly treasure. The white-robed swordsman who was hiding on a piece of debris had white sword light flashing in his eyes. It was as if he could see through everything. Seeing the appearance of the contestant who was flying over, the white-robed swordsman was overjoyed. He had been hiding here, constantly attacking the contestants. At this moment, there were more than 60 star lanterns above his head. The white-robed swordsman immediately transmitted his primordial spirit to a piece of debris in the distance. Heavenly treasure is here. Master, get ready to attack. The monk Shangda was hiding in the debris. The number of star lanterns above his head was also very shocking. There were more than 50 of them. Naturally, he and the white-robed swordsman had snatched them together. With such a fast speed, it would be hard for me to stop it even if I were to make a move, the big monk replied with a undertone. The white-robed swordsman said confidently, "It's okay. I have a special treasure. Even in this star abyss, I can travel through the air for a short distance without being affected by the shackles. No matter how fast he is, he's a joke in front of me. Wait until I've stalled him, then we can work together and kill him." That's great. The monk Shangda chuckled. He had a cunning and greedy look on his face. He didn't look like a Buddhist cultivator at all. He was still very far away from the white-robed swordsman and the monk Shangda, but Su Feng's great perfection ability and the heavenly secret life shrinking technique could sense their auras clearly. Then, the monk Shangda's primordial spirit transmitted, "Master, that white-robed swordsman and I are working together to try and kill you. You have to be careful. He can actually see through my appearance. This person has some skills, but if he wants to kill me, Su Feng, he's overestimating himself. I don't have any grudges with him. He didn't hesitate to attack me just because he was jealous. He's so narrow-minded. Since he wants to die, I'll grant him his wish." The white-robed swordsman actually found the monk Shangda. Su Feng couldn't help but laugh. The monk Shangda received a portion of Master Truth's Buddhist aura, as well as Buddhist techniques and supernatural powers. His strength increased tremendously, but his moral character didn't change much. The white-robed swordsman was really courting death. He actually found the monk. It would be strange if he didn't get swallowed whole. Whoosh! The white-robed swordsman charged out from the fragment 1,000 feet away. "Celestial treasure, stop!" The white-robed swordsman made a hand seal, and his hands formed a sword shadow seal. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, a sharp sword chi was released. Sword chi after sword chi attacked Su Feng with the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas with whooshing sounds. Once they were more than 1,000 feet away from Su Feng, the sword chi exploded with a shockingly destructive halo. Su Feng activated the supreme grade peak flying sword under his feet, and a sharp sword chi burst out. It collided with a white-robed swordsman's sword chi, creating a series of loud rumbles. When the explosive force dissipated, Su Feng stood still. "You're not running? If I relied on the flying sword's speed, it would be troublesome to kill you. Since you don't know what's good for you and want to fight me, then die." The white-robed swordsman said murderously. Su Feng said lightly, "I'm a little curious. We don't have any grudges. Why you keep targeting me? If it's just jealousy, it doesn't make sense. Since you're about to die, there's no harm in telling you. Listen carefully. My name is Luo Jiansheng. The black-robed old immortal is my godfather. I was abandoned by my parents when I was young. He was the one who raised me. Later on, I was sent to another immortal world to cultivate the great Tao of the sword. This time, I'm participating in the Heaven Ascension Assembly to avenge him. The white-robed swordsman couldn't help but grit his teeth. =_ our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1503. So, it's the surviving member of the Black Space Pirates. However, the black-clothed old immortal didn't die in my hands, but the beast catcher Li Haojia. Why didn't you go after him instead of me? Su Fong came to a realization and asked in astonishment. If it wasn't for you, that beast catcher wouldn't have been able to kill my foster father if you didn't injure him. It won't be too late to kill him after I kill you. A sword glow flickered in Luo Jinxing's eyes. Following this, the silver ring on his right thumb suddenly emitted a blinding silver xianguan. Buzz. A force that could distort space was unleashed from the ring. The white-robed sword Azura, Jinxing disappeared from his spot, leaving behind an afterimage. The next moment, Luo Jinxing appeared 10 zhong away from Su Fong. His speed was even faster than Su Fong's peak supreme grade flying sword. Such a fast speed, and this is still in the starry abyss. How fast would it be if it was on stars? It's very similar to the instant space ring I used in the small world. As soon as the thought flashed across Su Fong's mind, the ring on Luo Jinxing's finger unleashed a sharp sword intent that could tear the void apart. It condensed into silver sword intent threads that shot towards Su Fong. Su Fong had guessed wrongly. How is this a magical artifact like the instant space ring? It was clearly a sword orb. The so-called sword orb was made of sword intent and sword intent. It was extremely sharp and soft enough to coil around a ring. Although it looked soft, its power was unparalleled. Not only was it extremely sharp, it also had the ability to destroy the enemy's magical artifacts and break through their defenses. However, Luo Jinxing's sword orb was a little different. It was refined into the shape of a ring and had the unique ability to travel through space instantly. Its offensive power had also surpassed the peak supreme grade flying sword, but it was still slightly weaker than the Cloud Sky, Thunder Sword, and the Twin Swords of Annihilation. However, Cloudsky's Lightning Sword and Twin Swords of Annihilation were mainly powerful attacks, while the Sword Orb had more uses equals _1. The white-clad Sword Azura, Jian Sheng, was at the 7 Dao Saint Celestial stage. Although his cultivation in the great Dao of the sword could not compare to Duga Mujian, it was apparent that he had cultivated for a much shorter period of time than Duga Mujian. Furthermore, Luo Jinsheng possessed such a peculiar sword pill. It was no wonder that he dared to kill Su Fong. Even with Su Fong's strength, he was caught off guard by Luo Jinsheng's speed and the attack power of the sword pill. Su Fong activated the power of the world of Yin and Yang, using the power of the world to create a defensive domain around him. At the same time, he also activated the dragon Qi, and the surface of his body quickly condensed into dragon scales with amazing defense. Qi. Su Fong's world godly might defense was actually pierced through by the sword Qi and was riddled with holes. However, more than half of the sword Qi's silver threads had been depleted. Only a small portion of its power remained as it shot towards the dragon scales. With another series of shouts, the dragon scales were also pierced through by the sword Qi, injuring Su Fong's body. Blood spurted out from the sieve-like wound. Fortunately, Su Fong's body was at the perfected stage, and the black lotus blood threads had connected his flesh and meridians. Otherwise, he would have been severely injured by Luo Jinsheng's sword Qi. Celestial treasure, you've been injured by my sword Qi. Let's see how arrogant you can still be. Luo Jinsheng was instantly overjoyed. At the same time, he transmitted his essence spirit to Shangda, asking him to be prepared to attack at any time. It can actually penetrate my defense. What a peculiar Dharma treasure. However, it's a little laughable to think that you can injure Su Fong with just this. Su Fong secretly sneered. Su Fong activated the dragon, subduing True Body. With the protection of the world, godly might, and the dragon scales, the injuries on his body were not serious. They were quickly healed by the dragon, subduing True Body. Good Dharma treasure. It's mine. Su Fang's eyes flashed with a hale and hearty light. He immediately activated the purple Qi Dharma spirit. A mysterious purple Qi rolled out and enveloped Luo Jiansheng. Buzz, 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 the sword pill, which had turned into a thumb ring, trembled on Luo Jiansheng's right thumb. It actually wanted to leave his finger uncontrollably. What's going on? The sword pill is not an ordinary Dharma treasure. It was nurtured by my blood essence and sword Qi. How can it not be under my control now? Luo Jiansheng was extremely shocked. He hurriedly activated the fusion power with the sword pill. How could he still care about attacking Su Fang? Luo Jiansheng, don't panic. I'm here to help you. Boom. Shangda released an astonishing aura and attack from behind Su Fang. He turned into a 50 to 60 feet tall giant. His entire body was emitting golden Buddha Qi and was filled with astonishing power. His eyes were wide open with a solemn and sacred aura. He was like an angry Vajra. It turned out that Shangda had executed the Supreme Buddha's Fury Vajra body. Although its power was not as strong as when Master Truth executed it personally, it was still very powerful. It allowed his current aura to fight against a 7 Tao realm sage, immortal. What a powerful Buddha's ability. Grandmaster Shangda is indeed powerful. After we kill Su Fang, all the treasures on him will belong to Grandmaster. Luo Jiansheng was both surprised and delighted by the monk's strength. He offered an attractive offer to the monk. As for the aftermath, Luo Jiansheng naturally would not leave the monk alive. He had revealed his identity just now. He had no intention of letting the monk leave alive. In a flash, the monk stepped forward step by step and attacked Su Fang's back. However, Su Fang did not seem to notice anything. He continued to activate the purple Qi Dharma spirit and fought with Luo Jiansheng for control of the sword pill. The monk's body suddenly flashed to the side. After he quickly formed a seal, he struck out a Buddha's palm that was 50 feet in size and was shining with golden light. Boom! The Buddha's palm firmly hit Luo Jiansheng's body. Like swatting a fly, he was sent flying. Countless bones in his body were broken. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood with pieces of his internal organs. His aura was instantly weakened to the extreme. You, how dare you attack me? Luo Jiansheng was surprised and furious. He looked at the monk in disbelief. At this moment, swoosh! The sword pill on Luo Jiansheng's finger was also swept away by the purple Qi. It flew out of his finger and was sucked into the purple Qi space in Su Fang's body. Su Fang peeled off a red flame from the chaos mirror. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. It instantly incinerated Luo Jiansheng's blood and Qi in the sword pill. Then Su Fang peeled off a drop of blood essence and turned it into blood and Qi. With the help of the purple Qi Dharma spirit's original soul, he quickly fused the sword pill. My sword pill! Luo Jiansheng lost contact with the sword pill. He immediately screamed and spat out another mouthful of blood. His life force became extremely weak. The monk chuckled and said to Su Fang, Master, I made a great contribution this time, right? Luo Jiansheng's eyeballs almost popped out. Master? You're actually a slave master of celestial treasure? The monk smiled proudly and said, Yes, I'm a master under Master's command, and I'm the most useless kind. Master is so mighty that he can even kill immortal venerables and demon venerables. Who do you think you are to kill, Master? You really don't know what death is. Luo Jiansheng was dumbfounded. Then, he turned around and was about to escape. Go to Samsara and reunite with the black-robed immortal. Cold killing intent flashed in Su Fang's eyes. After forming a seal, streaks of silver sword Qi shot out from his fingers. My sword pill. In such a short time, he actually fused with my sword pill. Luo Jiansheng fell into a strong shock again. His own Dharma treasure was used against him by the enemy. It was as if his woman was taken away. It filled him with humiliation and despair. Qi, 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 Qi. Countless bloody holes were pierced through Luo Jiansheng's body by the silver sword Qi. Then, his body shattered into pieces. The extraordinarily talented Sword Azura Sword Life had fallen just like that equals and underscore one. Su Fong raised the corner of his mouth and smiled coldly. Your talent is not bad. Unfortunately, you recognized a tree demon as your father. You only have yourself to blame for ending up like this. Monk, his star lanterns are all yours. Thank you, master. The monk was surprised and happy. He excitedly went forward to collect all the star lanterns. The number of star lanterns above his head suddenly increased to more than 100. It looked like there was a river of stars above his head. The monk had more than 100 star lanterns. He had a chance to enter the top 10 and obtain the chance to enter the dragon saliva pool. How could he not be surprised? Su Fong opened his palm, and a sword pill appeared in his palm. This treasure is really not bad. It's an unexpected gain. Su Fong was also very happy. Buzz, Su Fong's life-shrinking technique, suddenly sensed that someone had locked onto his aura. Moreover, this locking power clearly contained killing intent. Su Fong looked at the spatial turbulence in the distance and shouted coldly, "Who is it? Come out!" To be able to hide in the spatial turbulence and not be detected by Su Fong's great perfection ability, this person's strength was far stronger than Luo Jiansheng. Whoosh, a figure stepped out of the spatial turbulence. There were more than 70 star lanterns above this person's head. It was a glorious battle. His Taoist robes and appearance were covered by the formation starlight. However, Su Fong's great perfection eye power could see that this cultivator had pale golden skin. He gave Su Fong the feeling that this cultivator was made out of brass. Jin Wuxiang, stealing treasures and secretly sending slave experts to participate in the competition. This is the same as Tianbao. You really make me feel contempt for you. Jin Wuxiang's eyes flashed with a pale golden light. It swept across Su Fong's body, creating a metallic sound. Not only was it ear-piercing, it also made one's primordial spirit and Taoist heart feel like it was being torn apart. Su Fong sneered coldly. Luo Jiansheng wants to kill me. Do you think I can't kill him? You just want to kill me and use me to boost your reputation. Why do you have to find such an excuse and act so righteous? You're a straightforward person. You're right. On the Heaven's Ascension platform, you had limitless glory. I'm not convinced. Inside the World Palace, an outsider like you has no right to be arrogant. I've been looking for you everywhere to kill you and use your corpse to boost my reputation. Jin Wuxiang's sonorous voice was filled with a sharp killing intent. Celestial treasure, show me your full strength and fight me. Jin Wuxiang suddenly burst out with an astonishing aura. The surrounding void of the abyss was instantly covered in a layer of faint copper color. All matter and energy in this area were immediately metallized. This peerless genius of the World Palace actually cultivated the extremely rare Great Tao of Metal. Equals underscore our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1504. The Great Tao of Metal. Su Fong raised his eyebrows, his eyes flashing with surprise. There were very few cultivators who cultivated the Great Tao of Metal in the Great World, and it was even rarer for one to cultivate to Jin Wuxiang's level. This person is quite extraordinary. He has cultivated his physical body into a type of true body. Law suddenly spoke from the blood jade in his body. True body? Jin Wuxiang also has a true body ability? Sense it carefully again. This person not only cultivated the Great Tao of Metal, but also has a metal elemental physical body ability. It is somewhat similar to your Fire Cloud Emperor physique and Black Lotus true body. Buzz. Su Fong activated his perfected ability and immediately sensed that Jin Wuxiang's physical body was like a Tao artifact that had been tempered thousands of times. Not only was it extremely powerful, but his physical body was also different from ordinary people. It contained powerful metal elemental power, just like how Su Fong activated the Fire Cloud Emperor physique and turned it into a flame state. Jin Wuxiang's physical body was now in a very strange metal state. Jin Wuxiang's current state was somewhat similar to those metal monsters in the True Dragon realm, but he was more than 10 times stronger than those metal monsters. Metal elemental true body, Su Fang's eyes flashed with vigor. The 5 elements are the foundation of my cultivation world. Metal elemental is one of the 5 elements and is indispensable. If I devour him and integrate his metal elemental true body ability, I don't have to cultivate the metal elemental true body from scratch. Law said with some regret, "It's a pity that this person is too weak and his metal elemental true body is not strong enough. Otherwise, his attack and defense would be extremely powerful. Besides, metal elemental true body is very difficult to cultivate. It will take a lot of effort to cultivate a mature metal elemental true body. If he is an immortal venerable, it won't be so troublesome." Su Fang chuckled. "How can I be afraid of trouble when I cultivate? I have cultivated the Fire Cloud Emperor physique and Black Lotus true body. I don't know how much effort it took to reach a mature level. He wants to kill me, so I don't have to be polite to him. I will use the Blood Sea to devour him and integrate with it to obtain his metal elemental true body. Then I will have metal elemental power." Sparks flew. Jin Wuxiang took a big step forward. His whole body was shining with a golden metallic luster, bringing with it an unstoppable aura. At the same time, after Jin Wuxiang activated his true body's ability, he released a terrifying divine power that could turn all matter into metal. He stepped towards Su Fang. Wherever his footsteps passed, the brass Xian Guang rolled up, and the dust in the void quickly turned into brass powder-like particles. Tianbao Dai, formless golden dipper body. Jin Wuxiang let out a sharp howl. His voice had the ability to penetrate gold and crack stone. It actually penetrated the surrounding ruins and shattered them. Then, he threw a punch at Su Fang. The void was torn apart by his fist, layer by layer. One of World Palace's 3 great monsters, Jin Wuxiang, was actually this powerful. Jin Wuxiang's strength had reached the peak of the 9th Dao Saint Celestial stage after he activated the formless golden dipper body. To be able to reach such heights after cultivating for less than 1,000,000 years, he was indeed a peerless genius of World Palace. "You want to fight me in close combat?" Su Fang sneered. He activated his dragon, subduing true body, and transformed into a dragon to fight Jin Wuxiang in close combat. Boom, boom, boom. This was a collision of incomparably powerful physical strength. The 2 powerful forces collided again and again, causing a huge explosion that shook the heavens and earth. The spatial turbulence that was stirred up swept in all directions, shattering the surrounding matter fragments. Even some small pieces of the debris of the stars in the distance were pushed away by the power of the shock. It was as if 2 monsters were fighting in the abyss of the starry river. It was earth-shattering. These 2 monsters. I better stay away from them. Monk Shang had always treasured his life. He was so scared that he had already run far away. Although his Buddha's Fury Vajra body was powerful, it was nothing compared to the powerful physical strength displayed by Su Fang and Jin Wuxiang. Just the impact of the battle alone was a great threat to him. Boom! After a violent collision, the 2 of them suddenly separated. Jin Wuxiang was sent flying more than 10 miles away. The bronze light on his body became much dimmer. At the same time, there were many shocking claw marks on his body. He looked at Su Fang again. He looked as if he was taking a stroll in the park. There was not a single injury on his body. In this confrontation, Su Fang had completely defeated Jin Wuxiang. Su Fang had a perfect physical body. His dragon, subduing true body, was almost mature. After transforming into a dragon person, his physical body was so strong that even celestial supremes could not compare. Although Jin Wuxiang's metal element true body was extraordinary, it was not at the same level as Su Fang. As expected of someone with the potential to become a top expert in the great world. You can even suppress my non-phase golden dipper body. You are qualified to make me use my divine power. Jin Wuxiang's eyes flashed with a cold light. The next moment, an extremely sharp metal element divine power exploded from Jin Wuxiang's body. Under the metal element divine power, the surrounding debris and dust turned into metal. Even the auras of Su Fang and the monk Shang were quickly metallized. Then there's skin and flesh. What a powerful divine power. The monk was extremely shocked. He quickly released golden light and Buddhist qi to stop the corrosion of the metal element. Su Fong activated the power of the yin-yang world to form a defense around him to resist Jin Wuxiang's metal element divine power. Ka equals N_R. Jin Wuxiang quickly formed a series of shocking hand seals. The debris and dust around him that had been metallized by his divine power swirled around him, forming a terrifying metal storm that shattered the space layer by layer. Because they were in the star abyss, the power of any divine power was suppressed. If they were in the stars and nature outside, how powerful would Jin Wuxiang be when he used this divine power? Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The commotion here alerted the contestants in the distance. They all rushed over. Witnessing Jin Wuxiang's shocking divine power, the contestants were all shocked. They didn't dare to get too close for fear of being affected. My supreme metal element divine power, Metal Storm, can even kill a powerhouse at the peak of the Saint Immortal realm. Celestial treasure, it's your honor to be able to die under my peerless divine ability. Jin Wuxiang shouted proudly. Exceptional divine power? Although this divine power is powerful, it's not an exceptional divine power. However, it's not easy for me to break this divine power. Do I really have to use my true strength? Su Fong furrowed his brows. There were many contestants watching the battle from afar. Moreover, this was the trial space of the Star River. The higher-ups of World Palace outside could definitely see everything that was happening in the trial space through their divine power. Killing Luo Jiansheng earlier might not have attracted the attention of the higher-ups. However, with such a huge commotion, it would be difficult for them not to be alerted. If he used the Fire Cloud Emperor physique or activated a Dao artifact, he could restrain Jin Wuxiang's divine power. It wouldn't be difficult to defeat him. However, if he did that, how could World Palace remain indifferent when he killed a World Palace peerless genius? Even if he got into the top 10 of the Heavenly Connect meet, World Palace would never allow Su Fong to enter the Dragon Saliva Pool. I have an idea. Su Fong's eyes shone brightly when he suddenly remembered that he had a treasure that could restrain Jin Wuxiang's divine power. This isn't a good place to attack. I have to lure Jin Wuxiang to a deserted place and use the life-shrinking technique rune to deceive his senses before killing him. Su Fong made up his mind. He took a step forward and came to the monk's side. After Su Fong struck out with an earth-shattering hand seal, a giant golden dragon the size of 1,000 feet condensed around him. The dragon swept its body and swayed with a terrifying aura, shattering the shackles of metal elemental divine might in the surroundings. The giant dragon soared into the sky and escaped into the depths of the Star River. You actually escaped? You don't even dare to take on my divine power. Tianbao, what right do you have to be called a peerless genius? Jin Wuxiang didn't even have time to release his powerful divine power. He could only watch as Su Fong escaped with the help of the dragon race's divine power. After being stunned for a moment, Jin Wuxiang roared angrily. He dispersed his aura and chased after Su Fong. Who is this person? He's so powerful that he can even defeat Tianbao. Who else can have such a divine power and aura other than World Palace's Jin Wuxiang? Jin Wuxiang is the weakest of the three monsters of World Palace. Tianbao can reach the heaven-reaching platform, but he can't even defeat Jin Wuxiang. The heaven-reaching platform is just the heaven-reaching platform. It doesn't represent one's true strength. Tianbao only has talent. His combat strength can't be compared to his talent. What peerless genius! He's just trash who doesn't live up to his name. Everyone snorted disdainfully at Su Fong. After that, they started fighting over his star lantern. World Palace Dao Grounds. Just as Su Fong expected, the battle between Jin Wuxiang and Su Fongda attracted the attention of World Palace's upper echelon. An immortal sovereign shook his head and said, Tianbao has heaven-defying talent, but his combat strength is only SOSO. He can't even compare to Jin Wuxiang, let alone Ling Yu and Feng Ling. He doesn't come from any major faction. He only has talent, but his combat strength isn't enough. Immortal Sovereign Bai, who had high hopes for Su Fong, was also disappointed. I wanted to rope him in and let him represent World Palace in the Heaven's Mandate, Hao Tsang Sek's Daoist competition. Now, I can only put my hopes on Feng Ling, not good. The Palace Lord has already sent people to report Tian Bao to Heaven's Mandate, Hao Tsang Sect, and said that he's an unprecedented, peerless genius. Heaven's Mandate, Hao Tsang Sect, has already sent their upper echelon to the Heaven Dao immortal world. If they know that Tian Bao's disciple has talent, but his true strength is so weak, what should they do? Another immortal venerable suddenly exclaimed. The other two immortal sovereigns' divine light changed. Whoosh, while the three-world palace immortal sovereigns were complaining, a figure passed through the array and appeared in the dojo. It was a green-robed elder who arrived in World Palace's line of sight. This elder's aura was ethereal, and his voice carried a powerful willpower that no one could go against. It was like the heavenly Tao. He was the peerless expert of Heaven's Mandate, Hao Tsang Sect, and his cultivation realm was not inferior to World Palace's Palace Lord. The higher-ups of World Palace hurriedly cupped their fists and bowed. Greetings, immortal sovereign Ji Hong. The green-robed elder slowly stroked his white beard and said to the higher-ups of World Palace, "Where is the peerless genius named Tian Bao that World Palace mentioned? He has cultivated for less than 1,000,000 years and can reach the top of the heavenly platform. This is the first time I've heard of such shocking talent. Tell him to come and see me." The green-robed elder called Immortal Sovereign Ji Hong looked impatient. A World Palace immortal sovereign braced himself and told him about Su Fong's previous performance. "It's actually like this?" Disappointment flashed in the green-robed elder's eyes. It seems that he was born lowly and was unable to enter a large faction to cultivate. If he is accepted in a Heaven's Mandate, Hao Tsang Sect, and is carefully nurtured, he might become a peerless expert in the future. It's just that he won't be able to make it in time for the Daoist competition. =our download address. Mobile reading. Bibliographic review. Chapter 1505. Ji Hong, Honorable Immortal, did not have the intention to blame World Palace, which made the higher-ups secretly relieved. I heard that Feng Ling is not bad. Since he has come to World Palace, let's see his performance. Hearing Ji Hong, Honorable Immortal's words, White Honorable Immortal hurriedly activated his divine ability and condensed what was happening in the Star River into an image. At the end of the Star River, a participant was sitting on a piece of debris without moving. There was only one star lantern above his head. Feng Ling, White Honorable Immortal hurriedly used the trial space array to transmit his voice to Feng Ling. Feng Ling, Ji Hong, Honorable Immortal of the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang Sect, wants to see your performance. Why don't you snatch the star lanterns of other participants and try your best? As long as you are valued by Ji Hong, Honorable Immortal, even if you can't become a Daoist, you will have a bright future. Unexpectedly, Feng Ling did not move and replied indifferently. I am waiting here for Tian Bao to fight with him. The others are not worthy of me. As for the experts of the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang Sect, I'm not a monkey. I will not show off in front of others. White Honorable Immortal was so angry that his body trembled. He shouted coldly with his voice. When Tian Bao fought with Jin Wuxiang just now, he was forced to flee by Jin Wuxiang. How can he be your opponent? The sect has nurtured you. Now that we want you to fight and gain face for the sect, why are you making excuses? Tian Bao is not Jin Wuxiang's opponent? Feng Ling raised his eyebrows. His eyes flashed with disbelief. I have overestimated this person. Fine, that Tuayu is not bad. I will choose him. Feng Ling suddenly stood up and took large strides in the air. To reach the end of the Star River, one had to pass through a very dangerous spatial turbulence zone. At this moment, outside the turbulence zone, there was a piece of debris that was 100 feet in size floating there. Tuayu was sitting on top of the debris. There were more than 200 star lanterns above his head. It turned out that after Tuayu entered the Star River, he came here to wait. The participants who could reach the end of the Star River had snatched many star lanterns. Tuayu had killed more than a dozen participants in one go. so he accumulated a shocking number of star lanterns. He was ranked first and had more than 100 star lanterns than Lingyu. Whoosh, amidst the spatial turbulence, Feng Ling flew out unhurriedly. His entire body was like the earth that could bear everything. The terrifying spatial turbulence around him was like a gentle breeze, unable to shake him in the slightest. Feng Ling asked calmly, "Are you Tuayu?" Tuayu sensed Feng Ling's aura and felt an extreme sense of danger. "You are the #1 disciple of World Palace, Feng Ling. Bring out your full strength and fight with me," Feng Ling said casually. "It is my honor to be able to fight against the #1 genius of the Qian Dao Great World, Feng Ling, who is famous throughout the entire Great World. Feng Ling, I will defeat you and make my name known." Tuayu's eyes flickered with a wild and crazy radiance. He was like a ferocious beast from ancient times. Then Tuayu's arm shook and his body shook. His bones and muscles grew crazily, and he turned into a 300 feet tall giant. Tuayu was like a giant from ancient times. A violent and domineering ancient aura soared into the sky, setting off layers of turbulent airwaves. Tuayu stomped hard in the void and took a big step forward. His footsteps shattered the space, and he charged towards Feng Ling with a terrifying aura that could shatter heaven and earth. Boom! After Feng Ling formed a seal, he extended a finger and pointed at Tuayu. An earth-shattering fingerprint collided with Tuayu's fist technique. Tuayu was like a cannonball. Under Feng Ling's finger technique, his body was sent flying. He smashed into countless debris along the way, and finally crashed into a huge ruin. Feng Ling's strength was so terrifying. Tuayu soared into the sky. His aura had become much weaker, and his body was covered with wounds. He looked battered and exhausted. "To be able to take one of my attacks, you're not bad," Feng Ling said calmly. He ignored Feng Ling and turned to escape into the spatial turbulence again. Tuayu returned to his normal state, and his face was filled with bitterness and defeat. "Only not bad." The next moment, Tuayu's eyes flashed with a crazy flame. "Feng Ling, how dare you humiliate me like this? One day, I will surpass you and trample you under my feet." Outside the trial space of the Star River, the #1 genius of World Palace is indeed worthy of his reputation. His cultivation base is at the peak of the 9th Dao, Saint Realm, and he cultivates the great Dao of Earth. He has the strength of a Saint Immortal. Not bad. This kid has the potential to become the Taoist of the Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect. The Jihong Immortal from the Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect kept nodding. He admired Feng Ling's performance very much. The higher-ups of World Palace were all overjoyed. The White Immortal thought to himself, "It's a pity that Tian Bao is too weak. Otherwise, he would be able to participate in the competition for the position of Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament Sect's Taoist." If World Palace were to obtain 2 Taoist positions, their position in the Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect would be higher than any other branch. What a pity! Whoosh, just as the attention of World Palace's higher-ups was focused on Feng Ling, Jin Wuxiang, and Su Feng, one running and one chasing, arrived at the bottom of the Star River. Swoosh! Swoosh! Su Feng struck out more than 300 talismans of the life shrinking technique, burying them in the floating debris. After doing all this, Su Feng asked the monk Shang to hide in the distance while he stood with his hands behind his back, waiting for Jin Wuxiang's arrival. In less than 10 breaths, Jin Wuxiang arrived one after another. "Let's see where you can run to this time." Jin Wuxiang raised the corner of his mouth and revealed a cold smile. "Do I need to run?" Su Feng smiled coldly. He clasped his hands together, and the talismans of the life shrinking technique that were lying in ambush all shattered at the same time. The power of the life shrinking technique enveloped the space within a radius of 10 li. Everything within this area was covered by the life shrinking technique. Jin Wuxiang sensed the abnormality. His divine light changed, and he could not sense anything in the outside world. His eyes instantly flashed with a serious look. As one of the top 3 disciples of World Palace, Jin Wuxiang was naturally not a fool. Su Feng had concealed this place. Clearly, He was planning to use an exceptional divine ability that he did not want others to know. However, since things had already come to this, Jin Wuxiang could not just turn around and leave. Instead, he revealed a vigorous fighting spirit and shouted, "Whatever exceptional divine ability you have, use it now. Otherwise, you won't have another chance." Boom! Jin Wuxiang once again unleashed his metal elemental divine power, turning everything in the surrounding space into a metal elemental domain. In this space, everything would be metallized. In the next second, Jin Wuxiang quickly formed a seal, and an explosive aura swept up the metallized debris and dust, forming a terrifying storm that swept towards Su Fang. Whoosh! Su Fang suddenly shot out a piece of dark rock that was 500 feet tall. Extreme E-Magnetic Stone. The Extreme E-Magnetic Stone was a kind of thunder origin stone. It contained the essence of the Extreme E-Magnetic Stone and had the unique ability to restrain the power of the 5 elements of heaven and earth, remarkable divine abilities, and Dharma treasures refined from metal. This Extreme E-Magnetic Stone was the one in the depths of the lightning waterfall abyss of the Sky Candle Thunder Realm. It had been merged with the sky-killing Thunder Emperor and brought out of the lightning waterfall abyss. Later, Su Fang killed the Tiansha Thunder Emperor, and the Extreme E-Magnetic Stone naturally fell into his hands. Furthermore, the Extreme E-Magnetic Stone could release a powerful magnetic field that had an astonishing attraction to metal elemental substances and energy. As it was very difficult to extract the essence of the Extreme E-Magnetic Stone from the Extreme E-Magnetic Stone, Su Fang did not have the time and energy to deal with it, so he placed the Extreme E-Magnetic Stone in the True Dragon Realm. He did not expect that it would come in handy this time. In an instant, the metal fragments and powder all surged towards the magnetite and collided with the lunar magnetite, producing a series of clanking sounds. Jin Wuxiang's earth-shattering metal storm instantly dissipated into thin air. What's going on? Jin Wuxiang was completely dumbfounded, and his body involuntarily moved towards the Extreme E-Magnetic Stone. He had a metal elemental true body, and his entire body was as if it was made of metal. How could he not be attracted by the Extreme E-Magnetic Stone? Extreme E-Magnetic Stone, and it's such a huge Extreme E-Magnetic Stone. Jin Wuxiang's eyes were filled with shock and fear. His faceless golden dipper body was unparalleled, but the Extreme E-Magnetic Stone was his fatal nemesis. Jin Wuxiang had no choice but to quickly withdraw his metal elemental true body and seal the metal elemental power in his body. As a result, the attraction of the Extreme E-Magnetic Stone to him was reduced to a very weak level, and the shackling force was greatly reduced equals and _1. However, how could Su Fang miss such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Now, I'll let you know what a truly powerful physical superpower is. Crack, crack, crack. Su Fang activated his giant Vajra body, and his entire body flashed with golden electricity as he transformed into a golden-robed giant. A shocking divine aura burst out, making Su Fang look like a majestic war god. What kind of evil technique is this? Jin Wuxiang was dumbfounded. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fang charged towards Jin Wuxiang's golden dipper body, and his huge fists bombarded Jin Wuxiang's body one after another. Jin Wuxiang had sealed his metal elemental true body, so his defense and combat strength were the same as an ordinary Saint Immortal Dao cultivator. Su Fang's giant Vajra body could even fight against immortal supremacies and demon supremacies, let alone Jin Wuxiang, a Saint Immortal cultivator. If Su Fang didn't want to end this battle, he wouldn't have used this superpower at all. Celestial treasure, I admit defeat. I'll give you my star lantern and all my treasures. Jin Wuxiang fell into despair and hurriedly begged for mercy. You wanted to kill me so aggressively just a moment ago, but now you're a weakling? Not only will I take your star lantern and treasures, but I'll also take everything you have, including your metal elemental true body. Su Fang said indifferently, and his eyes revealed a ruthless look. After a dozen punches, Jin Wuxiang's entire body from inside to outside, had not a single piece of intact flesh, bones, and meridians were all broken. The big monk, who was watching the battle from afar, trembled and broke out in cold sweat. He thought to himself, "Fortunately, I'm smart. I eat meat, drink wine, and lie, but I've never dared to betray my master." With such serious injuries, Jin Wuxiang was already on the verge of death. Su Fang kept him in the crucible transformation space and shackled him. "My metal elemental true body has been found." Su Fang was overjoyed, and his eyes flashed with excitement. How difficult was it to cultivate a type of true body? It was even more difficult to cultivate a metal elemental true body. Jin Wuxiang had devoured and merged with his metal elemental true body, which meant that he had another type of true body. The metal elemental true body brought about an increase in strength. In Su Fang's cultivation world, the metal elemental true body was also an indispensable part. In this trial space of the Star River, he first obtained a sword pill magic treasure, and then a type of true body. It was a great harvest. Su Fang activated the heavenly secret life shrinking technique and covered Jin Wuxiang's star lantern with the power of destiny. Then, he kept them all in the true dragon realm. If he took Jin Wuxiang's star lantern for himself, the upper echelons of the World Palace could easily infer who killed Jin Wuxiang through the changes in the number of star lanterns. Therefore, Su Fang had taken precautions in advance. =_ download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1506. In this way, Su Fang had nearly 80 star lamps =_R. Let's go. As the life-shrinking rune was about to disappear, Su Fang hurriedly brought the monk away from the bottom of the abyss. Just as Jin Wuxiang was taken away by Su Fang and his star lanterns were taken away, Jin Wuxiang's name disappeared from the ranking on the scroll. This was immediately noticed by the higher-ups of World Palace. How is it possible that Jin Wuxiang's star lanterns were taken away? Jin Wuxiang was one of the top 3 disciples of World Palace. Although his status was not as high as Fengling's, he was still closely watched by the higher-ups. Jin Wuxiang chased after Tian Bao. Could it be that Tian Bao defeated Jin Wuxiang and took away all his star lanterns? A celestial prime asked. Then, divine light flashed in his eyes. Seeing that Su Fang's ranking did not change, he shook his head and said, "Tian Bao's ranking did not change at all. Looks like it was not done by him. Besides, he does not have the strength to do so." Who took away Jin Wuxiang's star lanterns? This was the question in the hearts of all the higher-ups of World Palace. After waiting for a long time, Jin Wuxiang still did not come out from the trial space. Now, the higher-ups of World Palace could not sit still. This situation could only mean one thing. Jin Wuxiang had died. Jin Wuxiang has fallen. The higher-ups of World Palace were all surprised and shocked. A disciple that they had carefully nurtured had died in their own sex trial. This was not a small matter. Immediately, a celestial prime entered the trial space to investigate the truth behind Jin Wuxiang's death. In the following journey, Su Fang began to crazily snatch the star lanterns of the other contestants. Every time, he would add a few star lanterns to his head without leaving a trace. About 2 months later, the number of star lanterns above Su Fang's head had reached more than 130. He was ranked 3rd behind Tuoyu and Lingyu. World Palace was in an uproar. However, Su Fang had been defeated by Jin Wuxiang, and Jin Wuxiang had also died. In addition, Su Fang had not encountered any real experts in the following competitions, so his performance was not outstanding. Therefore, the change in his ranking did not attract too much attention from the higher-ups. That immortal Exalt Ji Hong from the Heavenly Mandate Hao Tsang sect paid careful attention to Su Fang, and in the end, he felt a wave of disappointment and stopped paying attention to Su Fang. There were still 10 days until the end of the competition. After entering the chaotic space at the end of the Star River, many contestants rushed over but were blocked by Tuoyu. There were more than 10 participants, all of whom were true experts. There were at least 70 or 80 star lanterns above their heads. Li Haojia and the Lord of 5 Poisons were among them. The Ghost Owl's 5 freaks, Mao Chong, and other experts had already been eliminated midway and sent out of the trial space. There were also hundreds of cultivators watching from afar. These cultivators were relatively weak. After entering the Star River, they only wanted to protect themselves and did not try to steal other people's star lanterns. Therefore, the number of star lanterns above their heads was pitifully small. At most, there were only a dozen star lanterns. Yu Miaoyin was also among these cultivators. However, everyone's appearance was covered. No one knew each other, and no one dared to attack others rashly. Tuo Yu guarded the entrance to the end of the Star River. He had the aura of one man guarding the pass. If you can take a punch from me and split 1/3 of your star lanterns, then you can enter the end of the Star River. Otherwise, get lost as far as you can. If you're caught by me, not only will you lose your star lanterns, but you will also lose your head. Tuo Yu shouted in anger. He was very domineering. Being defeated by Feng Ling with a casual blow completely aroused Tuo Yu's wild nature. However, he did not dare to enter the end of the Star River to challenge Feng Ling. Instead, he vented his anger on others. What if I want to enter? A cold voice was heard. Then, a figure flew over from the sky. This person was thin and weak. At first glance, it was obvious that she was a woman. However, her aura was empty. Being stared at by her, Tuo Yu felt a burst of heat and then a burst of coldness. Among the disciples of World Palace, you were second only to Feng Ling, Ling Yu. Tuo Yu stood up from the ruins and grinned. A fierce and violent aura swept out, like a ferocious beast baring its fangs. Whoosh, whoosh. Another 2 figures flew over from the sky. Above their heads, there were more than 100 star lanterns. If I'm not wrong, you should be Wu Mei and Wang Hao. No matter how arrogant Tuo Yu was, facing 3 peerless geniuses at once, he became serious. Ling Yu, the bald cultivator, and the golden-robed cultivator, Wang Hao, who cultivated the way of the emperor, did not dare to start a fight. There were so many contestants around who were eyeing them covetously. If they were careless, they might be eaten up by them. Ling Yu shouted coldly, "Get out of the way." The bald cultivator and the golden-robed cultivator also followed and approached. After hesitating for a while, Tuo Yu stepped aside. I didn't expect that the arrogant Tuo Yu would know fear now. It turns out that you're just a bully who fears the strong. After a mocking voice, Su Fong rode on his flying sword and flew over as fast as lightning. The monk followed them from a distance. Seeing that there were more than 100 star lanterns above their heads, everyone was shocked. You are Tian Bao. You came at the right time. As long as I kill you, not only will I be able to take first place in the Heaven Ascension competition, but I will also be famous in the Heaven Dao immortal world. Tuo Yu guessed Su Fong's identity. He directly activated the ancient giant barbarian bloodline and turned into a giant. With a monstrous aura, he charged towards Su Fong. Ling Yu, the bald cultivator, and the golden-robed cultivator were suppressed by Tuo Yu's aura and dodged to the side. They were all shocked. None of them was a match for Tuo Yu, unless they joined forces. Original state. Looking at the ferocious Tuo Yu, Su Fong sneered coldly. In an instant, the experts and big goblin that Su Fong had left in the Jinlong realm quickly entered the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. The doors of the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda opened, and divine power entered Su Fong's flesh and vital energy. At the same time, all the experts and big goblin injected their magical power and vital energy into the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda. After the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda merged and exploded, it seeped into Su Fong's flesh and vital energy. The whole process was completed in a flash. The next moment, Su Fong activated his dragon-subduing true body and rushed towards Tuo Yu in his original state. Boom! After the earth-shattering collision, Tuo Yu was like a leaf in the wind, dancing in the storm caused by Su Fong's power. In the end, he crashed into a pile of material ruins and penetrated 3 miles of ruins before he could stabilize his body. Su Fong raised the corner of his mouth and sneered disdainfully. You can't even withstand a single blow. You look strong, but you're just a clown. You poof. Tuo Yu's ears, nostrils, and eyes were bleeding from Su Fang's violent attack. After being mocked by Su Fang, Tuoyu was shocked and angry. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His giant-like body quickly shrunk to its normal state. Hiss! The cultivators who saw this all gasped. They were shocked, as if there was an earthquake in their hearts. In the World Palace's dojo, everyone thought that there wouldn't be any big waves after this, so they were all a little careless. The Jihong Celestial Venerable from the Tianming Hao Tsang sect closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in the air, waiting for Feng Ling to come out. How is this possible? The White Celestial Venerable exclaimed when he saw Su Fang sending Tuo Yu flying with one punch. Such terrifying power, even stronger than Feng Ling, can injure a Celestial Venerable expert. Even the Dragon Clan's divine ability can't be so powerful. Didn't Heavenly Treasure find it hard to fight against Jin Wuxiang? How can he easily crush Tuo Yu now? The World Palace's higher-ups were all shocked. Even I have misjudged him. This person is extraordinary, very extraordinary. The Jihong Celestial Venerable's eyes shone with a terrifying light as he stroked his beard and muttered to himself. Heavenly Treasure can injure Tuo Yu with one punch. Obviously, he has activated some forbidden technique, which means that both of them have lost their combat power. It's hard to predict what will happen next. The World Palace's higher-ups perked up and stared at the divine ability, painting intently. Good chance. Whoosh. Two figures rushed toward Tuo Yu at the same time, intending to snatch Tuo Yu's star lantern. They were Ling Yu and the bald cultivator who were watching from the side. As long as they were in the top 10 of the Heaven Ascension Conference, they would have the chance to enter the Dragon Saliva Pond. However, the rewards would be different depending on the ranking. The first place would have the priority to enter the Dragon Saliva Pond and other generous rewards, far surpassing the others. Which of these peerless geniuses didn't want to become famous in one battle? After becoming famous, it meant that they would have the same status and resources. As long as they could snatch Tuo Yu's Star Lantern, they would have the chance to be on the list. At this moment, they had to fight with their lives on the line. Heavenly Treasure, hand over all your Star Lanterns and get out of the Star River. Unlike Ling Yu and the bald cultivator, the golden-robed cultivator Wang Hao chose Su Fang. In his opinion, Su Fang must be the weakest to be able to injure Tuo Yu like this. Su Fang had more than 100 Star Lanterns. If he could snatch all of them, he would also have the chance to be on the list. Seeing the golden-robed cultivator's actions, the surrounding cultivators also rushed over, intending to take advantage of the situation. Do you think I, Su Fang, am an ant? You really don't know what death is. Su Fang exited his Dragon Man state, his deep eyes exuding coldness. An astonishing sovereign divine aura exploded from the golden-robed cultivator's body, enveloping all directions. In an instant, he turned into a supreme being in this space, ruling over life and death. So you also cultivate the Tao of the Emperor. Su Fang was stunned for a moment, then a mocking look appeared in his eyes. Kneel down now. The golden-robed cultivator shouted in a dignified and domineering manner. The sovereign divine aura descended, enveloping Su Fang's body, forming an astonishing shackle, wanting to bind Su Fang. The sovereign divine aura had the ability to suppress the enemy's divine ability and will. When one cultivated the Tao of the Emperor to a certain level, even if one didn't use any divine ability, just the divine aura release could cause the enemy's will to collapse and make them submit directly. This golden-robed cultivator's Tao of the Emperor, when cultivated to an extremely high level, could suppress experts who were 1 or 2 levels higher than him. However, in front of Su Fang, it was nothing but a joke. He had cultivated the tyrannical emperor's towering heaven technique to the extreme and absorbed an endless amount of faith power. In addition to the supreme luck brought by the purple Qi Dharma spirit, his Tao of the Emperor had long surpassed the limits of the Tao of the Emperor in the great world. What kind of sovereign divine aura could suppress him? What was the meaning of showing one's slight skill in front of an expert? This was the current scene. However, Su Fang didn't want to expose too much of his strength, so he didn't use the sovereign divine aura to suppress the golden-robed cultivator. Instead, he used the divine ability of the dragon race. In the name of the supreme divine dragon, in the will of the divine dragon, I will deprive you of your cultivation. Su Fong looked indifferently at the golden-robed cultivator, as well as the contestants who rushed over to take advantage of the situation, and spoke in a dignified and sacred voice. Curse of the Divine Dragon equals _ our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1507. In an instant, the golden-robed cultivator felt that his emperor aura was as laughable as a child's play in front of Su Fong's supreme aura. Under the curse of the divine dragon, the golden-robed cultivator's true chi was rapidly draining away, and his cultivation level was dropping rapidly. If the golden-robed cultivator who cultivated the Tao of Emperor was like this, the other participants were even worse. Their true chi and cultivation levels were dropping 10 times faster than the golden-robed cultivator. The curse of the divine dragon. The golden-robed cultivator's eyes were filled with shock and regret. He already knew that Su Fong was unfathomable, and he had repeatedly rejected White-Robe Sword Azura and Swordsman Shung's suggestion to team up against Su Fong. How could he be blinded by lard now? The curse of the divine dragon. In the World Palace's dojo, the expressions of the World Palace's heavyweights and higher-ups changed. The curse of the divine dragon was a supreme technique of the dragon race that was famous in the Great World. It had killed countless demon race experts in the Great War. However, the ancient dragon race was very mysterious, and it was even harder to see them in the Great World now. Cultivators who cultivated the dragon race's techniques were also very rare. Who would have thought that Tian Bao was not only an ancient cultivator with a physical body, but also a supreme technique of the dragon race? Since Tian Bao has such strength, Jin Wuxiang was most likely killed by him. How should we deal with this? Venerable White and the other heavyweights guessed and had an answer to Jin Wuxiang's death. No matter who it is, they must pay a heavy price for daring to kill a World Palace disciple so recklessly. Some heavyweights had already decided to capture Su Fong and interrogate him as soon as the Heaven Ascension Conference ended. In a desolate, immortal realm, a cultivator from the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect established a faction in the immortal realm. This person cultivates the dragon race's techniques. Could Tian Bao be related to this? As expected of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect's peerless venerable Jihong, he could deduce Su Fong's origin from the curse of the divine dragon. Su Fong walked slowly to the golden-robed cultivator and said in a majestic voice, "Hand over your star lantern. Thank you for showing mercy." The golden-robed cultivator smiled bitterly and cupped his fists in thanks. In the trial space of the Star River Path, countless cultivators had died in order to snatch the star lanterns. At this time, Su Fong spared his life, which could be considered as being merciful. After handing over all the star lamps above his head to Su Fong, the golden-robed cultivator activated his command medallion and was sent out of the trial space. After obtaining more than 100 star lanterns, Su Fong now had more than 200 star lanterns above his head. It was like a dazzling river of stars, which was very spectacular. Su Fong's ranking also rose to second place in an instant, second only to Tua Yu. I'll leave the others to you. Su Fong spoke with his primordial spirit to Li Haojia, the Lord of Five Poisons, and Yu Miaoying. After a round of divination, there were more than 100 star lamps above Li Haojia and the Lord of Five Poisons. As for Yu Miaoying, she didn't dare to take more than that. Once she had gathered 30 cups and ensured that she could enter the top 100, she wouldn't take any more. With Yu Miaoying's realm of immortals cultivation, entering the top 10 of the Heavenly Ascension Assembly was not a good thing for her. Su Fong looked at Tuoyu. Under the pincer attack of Ling Yu and the bald cultivator, Tuoyu, who was already in a state of serious injury, was in imminent danger at this time. However, he was still holding on, appearing very fierce. Ling Yu and the bald cultivator were both on guard against each other, but didn't use their full strength. You want to steal Su Fong's things? Then you'll have to pay the price. Su Fong smiled coldly and went straight over. Leave half of your star lanterns and scram. Su Fong shouted domineeringly. The three immediately stopped and looked at Su Fong. Ling Yu said coldly, "You want to take half of my star lanterns? You're really arrogant. If you have the ability, come and take it yourself. If I come and take it myself, it won't be half, but all." Su Fong showed the loftiness of an overlord. A mysterious purple chi spread out from his body and lingered around him, making Su Fong mysterious and unfathomable. Then he separated his hands. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Numerous flying swords gushed out from his palms like flowing water. In an instant, a sword river formed by thousands of low-grade, flying swords circled and whistled around Su Fong. Sharp sword chi rose into the sky and swept out in all directions. The ability to control Dharma treasures like this, Ling Yu, the bald cultivator, and Ta Yu were all shocked. Then, Ling Yu snorted. "With these thousands of flying swords, you're not qualified to take half of my star lanterns. Is it not enough?" More sword lights shot out from his palms. 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. Under the shocked gazes of everyone, Su Fong released another 5,000 flying swords. They turned into a sea of swords and surged crazily with sword intent, surrounding Ling Yu, the bald cultivator, and Tua Yu. Once activated, even a sane immortal at the peak of the 9th Dao realm would be crushed into pieces. Seeing this scene, everyone felt their scalps go numb and their eyes were filled with horror. This person is simply a monster. Heavenly Mandate, Bright Heaven Sex, Jihong, Immortal Venerable saw this scene from the Divine Ability painting and could not help but shudder with fear. White Immortal Venerable licked his dry lips and said, "I heard that this person is called Heavenly Treasure because he was born with the heaven-defying ability to control Dharma treasures. I thought it was just a rumor and laughed it off. Now it seems that there really is a cultivator in the world who has such a heaven-defying ability." Jihong, Immortal Venerable, said decisively, "After the Heaven Ascension Conference, I'll take this person away. Such a peerless genius is simply burying him in the Heaven Dao immortal world. It's naturally a great merit for World Palace to be able to find such a person. You'll definitely be rewarded." The higher-ups of World Palace were surprised and delighted. Jihong, Immortal Venerable, was also a big shot in Heavenly Mandate Bright Heaven Sect. With his personal promise, regardless of whether Su Fong could win the Daoist competition, World Palace would receive great benefits. Some higher-ups were planning to capture Su Fong and investigate the truth of Jin Wuxiang's death. Now, they completely gave up on that thought. Although Jin Wuxiang was a peerless genius of World Palace, compared to the great benefits of the sect, even sacrificing a higher-up was worth it, let alone sacrificing a disciple. Su Fong's crisis was eliminated before it even happened. "Half of the star lanterns are for you." The bald cultivator was very straightforward. He took half of the star lanterns above his head and gave it to Su Fong. Then, he turned and flew towards the spatial turbulence at the end of the Star River. "Heavenly Treasure, if I give you half of the star lanterns, I won't even be able to enter the top 10. I'm one of the top 3 disciples of World Palace. If I can't even enter the top 10, where will I put my face?" Even World Palace's reputation was lost. "Can you let little sister go this time?" Ling Yu's voice suddenly became gentle. She looked pitiful, but unfortunately, her expression could not be seen. Women are indeed born with a natural talent for acting. Su Fong was startled and smiled bitterly in his heart. "Half of the star lanterns, not one less," Su Fong said coldly. Honey traps were useless against him. The next moment, Ling Yu's voice was filled with anger. "Are you a man or not? You even dare to steal from a woman?" Su Fong said indifferently, "My Dao partner knows whether I'm a man or not. I don't need to prove anything to you. I only know that whoever steals from me, I'll pay back 10 times more. Letting you take out half of the star lanterns is already being lenient." Ling Yu was completely helpless. She could only give half of the star lanterns to Su Fong. "Hand over all your star lanterns to this great ant." Ling Yu was like a female dragon. She shouted coldly and flew towards the participants in the distance. She actually planned to steal their star lanterns to make up for her loss. Li Haojia had the most star lanterns. Naturally, he became Ling Yu's target. However, just as she was about to attack Li Haojia, Su Fang's cold voice sounded in her mind. This person is my friend. Your friend? Ling Yu secretly gritted her teeth and rushed towards Li Haojia. I'm sorry. This person is also my friend. Su Fang's voice sounded again. Ling Yu's lungs were about to explode. However, when she saw the sea of swords circling around Su Fang, she could only suppress her anger and run away. She could also see that Li Haojia, the Lord of Five Poisons, and Yu Miaoyin were dividing the star lanterns of other cultivators. It was Su Fang's intention. Therefore, she no longer had any ideas about Yu Miaoyin. Ling Yu saw the great monk Shang, who had more than 100 star lanterns above his head, and flew towards him. However, at this moment, Su Fang's voice sounded again. I'm sorry. This person. Ling Yu was completely driven mad. She shouted angrily. Is he also your friend? This person is not my friend. He's a slave expert under me. A slave expert under you. How many people did you arrange to enter the trial space? Didn't you take almost half of the top 10 spots in the Heaven Ascension Conference organized by the World Palace? Not many. Just these. I can't snatch from your friends. I can't snatch from your slave experts either. I'm so angry. Su Fang's cold voice sounded. What do you want? I'll endure it. Ling Yu gritted his teeth and vented his anger on the other contestants. Now, those participants were in big trouble. The great Tao that Ling Yu cultivated was also very strange. It was actually the great Tao of ice and fire. It perfectly merged the two extreme, natural divine powers together. The magical power that burst out was strange and extremely powerful. In an instant, Ling Yu snatched more than 20 participants. First, she snatched their star lanterns. Then, she beat them up. These cultivators were all beaten black and blue. In the end, they were kicked out of the trial space by Ling Yu. The other participants were scared out of their wits. Like a flock of frightened ducks, they ran far away. The end of the Star River was in chaos. She's actually a violent woman. Su Fang was dumbstruck when he saw this scene. She shook her head and smiled. She looked at Tuayu. Tuayu, do you still think that I'm a weakling that you can snatch from? You, of the bloodline of the ancient giant barbarian tribe. I thought that I could defeat all the geniuses in the Heaven Dao immortal world. I didn't expect to be defeated by Feng Ling and then by you. Now, I know that I'm just a frog at the bottom of a well. I accept my defeat wholeheartedly. I'll give you all my star lanterns. My life and death is also up to you to decide. Tuayu cut off the star lanterns on his body and threw them to Su Fang. Then, he closed his eyes and allowed Su Fang to do whatever she wanted. The number of star lanterns above Su Fang's head increased to more than 400. There were only about 1,000 geniuses who entered the trial space of the Star River. Su Fang alone took more than a quarter of them. If Li Haojia and the others were included, she took up nearly half of them. Whoosh, Su Fang put away all the sea of swords. Then, she flew toward the spatial turbulence. Tuayu was not surprised. Why didn't you kill me? I won't get any benefits from killing you. Instead, I'll have to waste my energy. Why should I do such a thankless thing? Su Fang's indifferent voice sounded. Don't expect me to be grateful to you. On the contrary, one day, I'll challenge you again. Tuayu shouted loudly. His deep eyes were filled with unyielding wildness and gratitude from the bottom of his heart. =our download address. Mobile reading, bibliographic review. Chapter 1508. The first place of the Heaven Ascension Conference belongs to me. Su Fang didn't take it to heart that he had obtained more than 400 star lanterns and was the first place of the Heaven Ascension Conference. What Su Fang cared about was the Dragon Saliva Pool, which gave him the opportunity to enter the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect and get closer to the Blood Jade. Li Haojia, the Lord of Five Poisons, and the monk also had the opportunity to enter the Dragon Saliva Pool. Their strength would definitely undergo a transformation. How could Su Fang not be happy with such a huge gain? Whoosh, Su Fang stepped into the spatial turbulence whirlpool with joy. Li Haojia, the Lord of Five Poisons, the monk, and Yu Miaoyin followed closely behind. Whoosh, whoosh. Su Fong and the others passed through the spatial turbulence and appeared above a huge material ruin. This was the end of the Star River. Unexpectedly, a calm voice sounded. "Your Tianbao? I've been waiting for you for a long time." Su Fong saw a cultivator wearing a plain cloth robe sitting in the center of the ruins. He sensed the vast and heavy aura coming from this person. Su Fong raised his eyebrows. "The number one disciple of World Palace. Feng Ling?" "That's right. I'm Feng Ling. Show me your true strength and fight with me." Feng Ling stood up slowly and looked at Su Fong. His eyes, which had been dead silent, flashed with fighting spirit. "This person cultivates the great Tao of Earth and has reached the terrifying height of the Saint Immortal Ninth Tao realm. His strength is indeed extraordinary," Su Fong thought. Su Fong had heard Jun Moyan mention the three disciples of World Palace, especially Feng Ling. According to Jun Moyan, Feng Ling was unfathomable. He had once fought with a celestial venerable from World Palace and ended in a draw. He had cultivated for less than 1,000,000 years and had the strength to fight with a celestial venerable. Such a peerless genius could only be described as a monster. Feng Ling has the strength of a celestial venerable, but I have the experience of killing celestial venerables and demon venerables. Why would I be afraid of him? But now is not the time to fight with him. Besides, other than the reputation of being a genius, what else can I gain by fighting with him? Reputation? Su Fong did not care. The Su Fong would never do anything that did not benefit them. Thinking of this, Su Fong flatly refused. "Sorry, I don't want to fight with you. That's not up to you." Feng Ling's voice carried a domineering aura. In an instant, the entire space at the end of the Starry River seemed to have been solidified into a material land, forming a terrifying shackle equals in _R. After forming the hand seals, Feng Ling punched out. To Su Fong, this punch seemed to contain the power of an immortal world, capable of causing heaven and earth to collapse. This is the strength of World Palace's number one disciple? Powerful indeed. Su Fong was shocked in his heart. So he's a madman who loves battle. Oomph. My Su Fong can even kill immortal exalts and devil exalts. So why would I fear a mere peak ninth Tao realm saint immortal like you? Natal form, dragon subduing true body. Su Fong instantly activated the natal divine power of the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda. Through the fusion of the Six Paths Pagoda, the genuine Qi and dermic powers of the experts under him, and the big goblin penetrated into his body and genuine Qi. Roar. After a dragon roar, Su Fong activated the dragon subduing true body again, unleashing the terrifying divine power of a divine dragon. Unlike the blow that Su Fong used to severely injure Tuoyu, this time Su Fong had no choice but to unleash his full strength. Feng Ling's attack was too powerful. If he held back, Su Fong would be seriously injured. Rumble. The earth-shattering collision shattered the world shackle at the end of the Starry River, causing the surrounding space to shatter and large pieces of material ruins to shatter. Li Haojia and the others were affected. Like a small boat being lifted by a huge wave, they were swept away. Their auras immediately weakened. Yu Miaoyin, who was the weakest, even vomited blood from the impact. Although the bald cultivator who had entered the end of the Starry River was also affected, he looked calm. This person's strength was obviously extraordinary. However, Su Fong and Feng Ling did not move at all. They were actually evenly matched in this exchange. Let's fight again. Feng Ling's eyes burned with a terrifying battle intent, as if he had gone mad. This lunatic. Su Fong felt a headache. It was not difficult to defeat Feng Ling, but this way, he would have to expose most of his strength. Suddenly, the voice of the White Immortal, a big shot of the World Palace, rang out, "Stop! Do you want to tear down the Starry River?" Su Fong and Feng Ling's shocking destructive power had surpassed the limit of the Saint Immortal realm and reached the level of immortal supremacy. If they fought here without restraint, it might really cause the trial space to collapse. Then, divine power shrouded the two of them and directly teleported them out. Whoosh, Su Fong and Feng Ling appeared in the training hall. The big shots and upper echelons of the World Palace looked at the two of them as if they were monsters. In the hearts of these upper echelons, Su Fong and Feng Ling were no doubt monsters. Especially Su Fong. These upper echelons all knew of Feng Ling's strength, but Su Fong's strength was actually on par with Feng Ling. One could imagine the shock in their hearts. Tian Bao, you're very strong. Why don't you and I fight outside the Heaven Dao immortal world? Feng Ling's battle intent did not decrease. A person who was originally very calm actually became like a crazy beast when his battle intent was provoked. Impudent. The heavenly mandate bright firmament sex, Jihong Immortal, is here. Feng Ling, Tian Bao, why don't you come and greet him? The person who shouted coldly was the World Palace Master. The World Palace is only a branch of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect, and the Palace Master has such strength. It can be seen how strong the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect is as a whole. Su Fong looked at the World Palace Master with his perfect eye power. He felt the supreme aura and will of the heavenly Tao, and his cultivation had reached the same level as Frozen Dream. He couldn't help but be shocked. Jihong Immortal? A peerless immortal from the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect. Su Fong glanced at the azure-robed elder. With his perfect eye power, he felt that this person's aura was similar to Frozen Dream's. However, Frozen Dream had a divine artifact, so she was definitely much stronger than him. However, Su Fong felt an extremely powerful aura from this elder. This aura was 10 times, no, 100 times stronger than the azure-robed elder. It was vast and deep, and it made Su Fong feel as if he was facing the heavenly Tao. What was strange was that this aura was exactly the same as the azure-robed elder's aura, but it was not something he could have with his cultivation. What's going on? Su Fong was very surprised. Law suddenly warned Su Fong from the Blood Jade. This person should be the clone of a peak expert of a great world. You have to be careful. Just a clone? If a clone has such a shocking cultivation, then how powerful is the main body? Su Fong sucked in a breath of cold air, and a chill seeped out of his back. A height that you still need to look up to for now. It might be even higher than the Yellow Spring Great Emperor and the Dead King. Why would such a peerless figure appear with a clone? Could it be that my Chaos Origin Sacred Mirror caught his attention? Suddenly seeing a peak expert of a great world, Su Fong's first thought was whether or not he had come for the Origin Sacred Mirror. It's unlikely that he came for your mirror. Otherwise, he would have directly entered the trial space and captured you. Why would he wait until now? Law's words made Su Fong laugh for a while. He was really a little too nervous. You don't have to make a fuss. An expert of such a height would be in seclusion for tens of millions of years. Therefore, he rarely appears in front of the world and usually appears with a clone. The reason why he appeared here is obviously because of other matters. Su Fong secretly sized up the green-robed old man with his great perfection ability, guessing the purpose of this person coming to the World Palace. The old man actually sensed it and looked at Su Fong. A glint flashed in his eyes, as if he could see through Su Fong from the inside out. In an instant, Su Fong had an illusion that his cultivation and even fate had been seen through. Su Fong was shocked and quickly retracted his gaze. At the same time, he activated the Heavenly Secret Life shrinking technique to conceal the Heaven and Earth Tao Palace, the primordial chaos Sacred Mirror, and the other peerless Tao artifacts. Even the purple Chi Dharma spirit was concealed. Greetings to the immortal Venerable. After Su Fong and Feng Ling greeted the Jihong Immortal Venerable, the latter just waved his hand and did not say anything. Not long after, the competitors who entered the end of the Star River were transported out. According to the number of star lanterns seized, the rankings of the Heaven Ascension contest were already clear. Su Fong had more than 400 star lanterns and deserved to be first place. The second place was Lingyu. This violent woman's strength was not ordinary. After Su Fong took half of her star lanterns, she crazily plundered the other competitors, and in the end, she had more than 200 star lanterns. The third place was Li Haojia. After that, it was the Lord of Five Poisons, the monk Shangde, and the Bald Cultivator. The other 4 places in the top 10 were all occupied by the special disciples of the World Palace. As for Feng Ling and Tuoyu, who were the most popular before the contest, the former only had 1 star lantern, while Tuoyu could not even keep a star lantern. Naturally, he did not have any ranking. As for the other peerless geniuses, Jin Wuxiang and the white-robed cultivator Luo Jiansheng had died. The golden-robed cultivator Wang Hao had his star lantern stolen by Su Fang. White Immortal Venerable announced the rankings of the Heaven Ascension contest. On the scroll magic treasure above the dojo, the names of the 10 people condensed in Xian Guang were like the divine sun in the sky, extremely dazzling and eye-catching. Both inside and outside the World Palace, in the Heaven Dao Immortal World's King City, there were waves of shocked exclamations. The most discussed name was naturally Tian Bao. On the Heaven Ascension platform, he had reached the top in one go. No one would be able to do so in the future. In the Star River trial space, he had taken almost a quarter of the star lanterns. This was enough to prove his strength. With such peerless talent, who could compete with him? Even a #1 disciple of the World Palace, Feng Ling, seemed dim. The big shots and upper echelons of the World Palace all felt uncomfortable. They could not be blamed for being narrow-minded. The Heaven Ascension contest was taken by an outsider who came out of nowhere. They could not be happy, but they did not show it on their faces. After White Immortal announced the rankings of the Heaven Ascension contest, he was about to let the competitors disperse. Suddenly, Ling Yu stood out and said loudly, "I have an objection to this Heaven Ascension contest." Shwa shwa shwa. Everyone's gazes were focused on her. "What objection do you have?" White Immortal Venerable raised his white eyebrows. If Ling Yu was not one of the top 3 disciples of the World Palace, he would have acted up on the spot. "I have an objection to Tian Bao's #1. This person relied on himself to get first place. I do not accept it." Ling Yu's sharp eyes stared fiercely at Su Fang, and then she said, == our download address. Mobile reading, bibliography.